Saros, what's your problem with PC?
I'm gonna be honest with you, man. I'm kind of exclusive. Hello and welcome to Triangle Squared, a PlayStation podcast. I'm your host, Brett Beck, and alongside me on this beautiful day is, or I guess beautiful night, Mr. Chris Figs. Chris, how you doing today, buddy?
Oh, I'm doing just great. How are you, man?
I'm doing all right. We're here. Of course, if this is your first time listening to the podcast, first and foremost, welcome. This is a podcast where we talk about the gaming industry through the lens of primarily being PlayStation fans, though we play elsewhere when and where we see fit. We've had stints where we go a long time without playing PlayStation. Sometimes are, long enough considering. So we'll see how that falls around to on this episode. But I think we got some games to talk about for PlayStation 5. I mean, I've been playing quite a bit of it, so we'll see when we get around to that. But again, we're going to talk today about Darksiders coming back around, PlayStation's change of stance on PC. We got some questions from some listeners around some stuff happening out there, some price increases around, and the big thing this week is probably really how safe is your PlayStation Network account? But we will get to all of those things in due time. What we always do to start this show off is talk about what we've been playing so we can give you guys what we think maybe the next thing you should be playing is, or just give you feedback on something we're playing that might pull you towards or away from it if it doesn't sound like the thing for you. Chris, I see that you have a game on here that I have not heard of at all. I'm not sure what it is. So I'm going to throw it over to you first. And I have to ask the question, what the hell is Megabonk?
So it's a PC game. I think it's PC exclusive right now. And it's like, to me, it's more active Vampire Survivors.
Okay.
So it's auto doing all your attacks and all that kind of stuff. And you're basically just moving the character. It's more close third person. It's not over the head like Vampire Survivors is. But so you're going around, you're getting these collectibles, and your goal is to kind of navigate the map and find the boss and defeat the boss. So with that, you're picking up your weapons, you're upgrading your weapons, and you're doing all of that. It's cool. I like it a lot. It has a lot of like fun humor, and the loop is just Vampire Survivors, so it's super entertaining to, I've been playing this guy Clank, CL4NK, and he starts with dual revolvers. Okay. So like with him, like I like to invest in, projectile speed and projectile duration, all this kind of stuff. So I'm just always shooting, and then I'll do things like I'll pick up the bow and arrow, which is like the bullets, except it shoots 3 at once and it takes a little bit longer. And then you'll kind of like depend, because in the same way that Vampire Survivors does, you get to a point where it's like, whether you want it or not, you have to make a choice. You got to take it.
Yeah.
So like you'll have to adapt in that way. I really like doing the homing rockets, which I got to remember what they're called. They have a really funny name. I think it's Slutty Rocket. And you get the slutty rockets, and those just kind of home in on enemies. So it's cool. Like when you're building up, it's the same loop as Vampire Survivors, where like you're building up all of this stuff, and you're shooting these big explosions, and you're seeing all this stuff. And then enemies get more vast. It's all for all intents and purposes, you're playing a third-person Vampire Survivors, even to the point where it's like you have elite enemies, but then you have even more elite enemies, which I think Vampire Survivors kind of does that.
Yeah, I'd agree. So one thing is I am curious about, and looking at screenshots here and kind of imagining taking the camera from the top-down view and kind of pulling it over, is that like in Vampire Survivors, even though it auto attacks, you still have to like twin stick shooter aim your attacks, right? Like a bullet hell twin stick shooter style, where you kind of aim. How does that work when you're in a 3-dimensional environment? Because I feel like it's probably still there, but how do you actually aim when the camera is trying to be fixed? Are you actually swinging your entire field of view, or is this just one of those things?
I guess third person is not the way to put it. It's Vampire Survivors in perspective brought down to like a more recognizable behind the back, but there's still enough space between you that you can see it, and it's still overhead enough that you can see the
Almost
area
like a
around you.
third-person isometric, like Diablo-ish.
Kind of, yeah. I guess that would be closer. It's more zoomed in than Diablo. I'll say that.
For sure.
But it depends on the weapon you're using. So like one of the weapons I don't super love is a sword, and the sword is really powerful. But what I've found is that you do have to like turn him this way, turn him that way towards the enemies. Whereas like with the revolver, it just kind of just fires, and he just fires it in 4 directions, almost like gung fu-ish, where it's like, oh, one up, like a compass, north, south, east, west, a bullet's going. So you don't have to aim as much. And then that kind of gets mitigated when you have more of the upgrades. Like you have the duration or the amount, all that kind of stuff upgraded up. It gets to a point where it's just firing bullets all the time and firing bullets all the time, because your cooldowns will go down. So it's really just dependent on what you're using. If you're using what I'd imagine is like the melee builds, you have to aim a little bit more. But it does have like Poe and Vampire Survivors, where he's all about the garlic. They
where it's
have
like
a
an
character,
area of effect.
Yeah, they have a
pushing out the area of
character.
effect.
Exactly. They have a character who's doing that, but then they also have stuff. So like that one's called Aura, and it's on this guy. I think his name is Chad, and like his whole thing is like he's walking around flexing the whole time you're playing this game.
Yeah, and his mad aura is just blowing everybody away.
Exactly. But what's really funny is that he has these moments with him where it's like his character boost is he has a 1% chance to, all in capitals, flex, and if he does that, the attacks miss. That would have hit him anyway. So I really like that. It has a lot of character in that way. Even with Clank, it's like he's got stuff in there like Borderlands, right? All this kind of crazy shit. So it's a really fun game. I recommend it. I think it's like a $10 game at that, so you're not losing much. Giving it a shot.
Is this the game that Brody mentioned the other day when we were playing online? Because he did mention a Vampire Survivors like game, and I could not for the life of me remember the name of it. So I was curious.
I don't think so, but I'm gonna be real. By the time he joined, I was fighting for my fucking life. So he could have said anything he wanted to, and I wouldn't have recognized it.
Well, we'll talk about that in a second then. I'm going to scooch over real quick to talk about Samus Returns. I don't have a whole lot to say. The game continues to get really good, and I've never played, what is that, Super Metroid or Metroid 2? I don't remember the name of the original, something like that. The game's really good, and the remake is really well done. There's some pretty cool things that I'm pretty sure they made changes to based on things that kind of became a little more commonplace with how they foreshadow and kind of tell you without telling you how you're supposed to adjust things. There's some things that feel like, oh, if you've played the Prime games, you're going to be more aware of these tells in other games, which is kind of cool because I love Prime. But yeah, the game continues to be really good. I'm pretty sure I don't want to say the final boss, but I'm pretty close to it, I feel like. But it's a little hard to tell with what it is. I continue to absolutely love the second screen for gaming, which is probably something you're going to continue to hear me say as I keep playing games that are either 3DS or Wii U games where they have that functionality, because it's just so useful, dude. Like even little things like in Twilight Princess, where you could just hit a button to turn into the wolf instead of having to hit a button to talk to Midna to tell her you want to turn into the wolf late in the game. That's such a small thing, but that quality of life is something that doesn't really change the intent of the game designer. It just adds, because originally on GameCube they didn't have a second screen that had essentially endless buttons that are just touchscreen buttons. You were limited by the controller, so you limited what you could do and try to make it work. So I love that. I still think it's super cool. I don't want to say I mourn the loss of it, but I still think there's room for second screen gaming. I guess that's my biggest thing, and I continue to be surprised that like the Switch 2 has not taken advantage of the fact that it has an extra charging port and all these things to just let you kind of dock it by way of a cord and let you use the Switch itself like a Wii U gamepad while you put something else on the screen. I think that functionality is still cool and still possible, just nobody is prioritizing it, which maybe that just means that that's where the market's at, but I think it's a cool idea all the same.
I feel, maybe I'm naive, but I kind of feel like the market for that is in like how you do it for yourself. Like I play, now that I have a better computer that I can kind of plug in easier. I've been playing games dual screen, but it's like, so like I didn't put it on my list because I already platinumed it. I'm just kind of in my spare time playing San Andreas. And what's been cool with that is I've done like I have the ability to like split my monitor into two. So like I'll throw on, like I had the other day, I had an interactive map of San Andreas on one screen, and then I was just running around getting collectibles, just using that, right? And like I've had other things like I'm sure you do it, where like I've been playing a little bit of like some smaller stuff, like I've back into Balatro, and like that's great because I hate that I'm going to say this, but like I've gotten really into oh my god, I'm embarrassed now. I didn't realize how embarrassing watching this show is until I decided to say it publicly. But I've been watching a lot of Young Sheldon. It's a fucking fantastic show. You can laugh, I don't give a shit, but it's a great show.
I've never. Let me take a step back. My daughter has been super into watching it, but I don't know much about it. I know I didn't like Big Bang Theory when I've watched an episode or two with friends who really love it. The show doesn't vibe with me for whatever reason, and maybe I just saw bad episodes to be introduced to. I have no I don't have a strong opinion on Big Bang Theory, and by extension I don't have a strong opinion on Young Sheldon. I think the thing I remember feeling the weirdest about Young Sheldon is that I remember it being like people who were really religious were like really championing the show, because apparently I guess the show gets really religious at times, which is only weird because that's not the vibe I got. It's not the vibe I got from Big Bang Theory, so it feels like a weird thing to put in a spinoff about one character from Big Bang Theory who never got religious that I am aware of in the Big Bang Theory. But again, having not watched it, I can't say that with certainty.
Well, Sheldon's not religious. His mom is.
Yeah. So I don't know much. I just know that the show was being championed, and I remember thinking, Was Big Bang Theory religious in a way that I just never heard about, like as a cultural, a cultural moment? Like that's still Big Bang Theory, whether or not you watched it, was still a show in the cultural zeitgeist. So there's things I know about Big Bang Theory, even though I've never seen it in any real capacity.
That's why it makes me laugh, and like it feels embarrassing to say. It's like there's a lot of people who are like think the Big Bang Theory is like a curse on television, and I'm watching the spin-off about the child, but it's actually like it's a fun show. I think it's interesting that people would be championing it. That's a hard word to say. As a religious show, because like this is just my perspective, but the mom who is the religious one is kind of the villain, and her religion is the entire reason that she is a villain.
That's interesting. I don't know. But I think what's weird is that I can't think of the guy's name right now. It's Chuck something. The guy who made Big Bang Theory had he made 2.5 Men, and up until the drama around Charlie Sheen happened, I loved 2.5 Men. I think it was an excellent show.
Great show. Yeah, it's
so good. And I couldn't get into it when they pulled Ashton Kutcher in to kind of be like the replacement foil. I don't know. In a way, they made Alan the foil to someone else, which was very weird. I couldn't get into the show there, but I thought that show was great. So. There's no reason for me to think Big Bang Theory would be inherently bad. I just didn't get on with it whenever I've watched a little bit of it. But that's something I think that's important to say, is I think it's really easy for people to get strong opinions about things that they have not spent enough time. Like people are like, you don't like The Walking Dead? And the truth is I watched season 1 of The Walking Dead and I just didn't get into it. I think it was awful, but I was like, it's not doing enough for me. And so I put it away. And so people are like, you don't like The Walking Dead? I'm like, bro, The Walking Dead is like 8 seasons and 4 spinoffs. I don't know anything about The Walking Dead. I know season 1. I can talk to you about what I didn't like about season 1, but that's been long enough ago at this point that I don't even have strong opinions. I just remember I watched it. I remember some things, and I just didn't really care for it, and I stopped. I did the same thing with Game of Thrones season 1. I watched season 1, and it was kind of like, and then I never watched any more of it.
That season 1 is one of the worst seasons.
I hate season 1 of Game of Thrones. You know what I mean? Like I just say... Yeah. The season or the Game of Thrones I witnessed didn't pull me in, so I don't have a strong opinion about Game of Thrones. Yeah. Which is funny because I know plenty of people talk shit about the final season, and I don't even know that some of those people even watched it. I think people just get into this thing where like culturally, it's a reference point to say that the last season of Game of Thrones sucked. But ironically, you could watch it and fucking love it. It would surprise me given how much people dog on it. But I was, it's weird. I was watching a video today and this dude just kept, or I was listening to a video today, and this dude just kept making little jabs at The Last of Us Part 2 and saying that like they only made one game. And it had nothing to do with the video I was watching. And it started to annoy me because I was like, I can't even tell if this fucking guy played The Last of Us 2 or if he's just one of those guys that heard something about it, formed an opinion based off of a leak that turned out to be wrong and have never played it, and they still think that that's the thing that's going on. And that's just like, what are you doing spending this much time spreading hate just because I guess it gives you cultural points?
Yeah, it's like a fun reference point.
Yeah, so don't let people shit on you about Young Sheldon. If you like the show, fuck yeah, keep watching it.
I do like
but I'm
Young
assuming
Sheldon.
you're getting at you've been watching Young Sheldon while playing something else.
Exactly. So I've been having my own dual screen experience, and it's different because like I was having it before, like when I was using my laptop in kind of the same way I use my PC, and like but in this one it's like it's a much different, like, you know, your eyes are not going to different places. I know that sounds really stupid, but like, and then you don't follow walkthroughs, but like especially like when I was going through Kingdom Come, I wouldn't have played it this way because you it's half the screen, it's 16 inches instead of the 32 or whatever.
Sure.
But like it would have been nice to have the list of like, okay, these are all the things that you can do in this area, and then be able to like follow it along rather than like going over here, be like going on my computer looking and then looking back up and then check. It's like now it's right there. So like I do enjoy that dual screen experience. I wonder how I would like the Thor, but I also don't really since I have been trophy hunting less, I haven't cared as much about the dual screen experience, because for me the dual screen experience is a collectibles guide. So
well, that's fair, but I do want to specify, because I think it's important to clarify between the two. I have enjoyed some of the dual screen uses of like the Thor when they aren't connected at all, like being at the gym and watching a YouTube video on one screen and playing RuneScape on the other. Like I do enjoy that use case. And I've not really done a whole lot of the other stuff. I've seen other people doing things like having a guide on the bottom screen and the game on the top, or vice versa, depending on what you're playing. I think that there's merit for that, and I think that that's cool as well. But I think that's you can more or less mimic that. Like you mentioned, it's not the same experience as when it's in one device. I'll give it that. It still changes it. But you can mimic that pretty closely by just using another device. I do want to specify that I'm talking about when a game has a dedicated use for a secondary screen, like a DS, a 3DS, or the Wii U, where the whole point, and we saw this a little bit, right, during the PS4 era, and I guess we kind of saw it in the Switch too, because I'm pretty sure there was a companion app for Tears of the Kingdom that allowed you to pull up and connect it to the game, and like it would show you referencing like stuff on the map. That's the kind of stuff I'm talking about, where I think it's really neat for like Kingdom Come, as you kind of gave an example to. There's times where I want to reference the map, and it kind of annoys me that I have to hit the up button, which thankfully I figured out there was a shortcut directly to the map. But I have to hit the up button, but then I also have to zoom out of the map every time I go into it, because it zooms into whatever area you're in. If you're in a city, you get like back out of the borders of the city, which is a little annoying. So I guess this is a way for me to scooch into talking about Kingdom Come Deliverance real quick. But
please do.
As I make my way to that, I do say like part of what I'm talking about is I could imagine myself playing this game with the PlayStation Portal as my controller and playing with the majority, like playing with the game itself that you normally see on my big TV, but then at the bottom, just in control area of my hands, having the map and my inventory as something I could touchscreen tap between. And it would still have the things like if you're in combat, you just can't go into your inventory, because that's exactly how you can go into it, but you can't use anything, right? You can keep all of the same things that the game brings in and have it down there, but you could do things like where your map is just out there and you can see it and you can reference it without having to hit up and do different things. I think that'd be really neat. And I think a lot of games, definitely these really long games that are packed with a bunch of stuff in a small area, I think they can benefit a lot from that. But I think even smaller games can too. Like as weird as it is, when you're playing Samus Returns, there are two ways to go into the morph ball form. You can press the down button either with the analog stick or your D-pad, and then hit it again, and you'll crouch and then go into a ball, almost like in old games where you'd like have to crouch before you could go into prone. Like you'd have to crouch and then hit the button to go into prone again. But there's a shortcut on here where when you're playing the 3DS version, it lets you tap the bottom touchscreen away from the other buttons that you can tap to like change your missile types and stuff without having to go through a menu. It's just you aim and you tap a different missile type and then you shoot. And it's like, it's super intuitive, definitely on a device where the screen that you're using as a secondary device is between your fingers. And it just really works in a way where it's like, man, I can imagine trying to do some of these things on the old Game Boy version of Metroid 2 and it being not bad, but just being more of a pain in the ass. And I guess the biggest problem is that second screen gaming is just expensive, and you can't rely on everyone having that unless you do like the DS or 3DS or Wii U, where it's baked into what you're buying, but then you're adding the cost of an extra screen and everything to everyone. So I think that's why it's not as popular as it could be, is it just adds so much overhead cost. But that's why I'm a big fan of letting it be optional, but it's kind of to break off of what we were talking about before we started recording. The problem is if people aren't going to use it, because it's not baked into it, then people have less motivation to make things for it. And so less people are going to be playing it. Eventually it just gets to a point where no one's doing it because neither side is taking the first initiative, right? There's not a developer going, you know what we're going to do? We're going to find a way to, we're going to do a thing where you can use your phone as a second app. And then we're going to do that. And then the few times that people have done that, it has happened, they're not doing it enough for it to become a trend that people are like, we're going to do this more often. And then Sony might have been like, hey, we're seeing a lot of apps to act as second screen devices on your phone. We could just do that same functionality in the portal and it'd be another selling asset for the portal. But it's not in the cards.
So two things. First of all, I wonder, like specifically for emulating a 3DS, I wonder, because my monitor can clearly be two screens if I wanted to. I wonder if I could get it to split like that, put the top on one screen and the bottom on the other screen, and I wonder if I could do that. You can. My other point was like, I wonder if Canis will have any second screen functionality like that.
That in a way that would be even cooler because it's meant to be like a PS5, and so it make even more sense that you could connect it that way. But at the same sense, there's really no reason why you couldn't do the same with the portal outside of it's just not being programmed for it. But yeah, that's a cool idea. I mean, never say never. I guess until they announce it and we get an idea of what it is, I would love for that to be the thing. I would have liked for that to have been a thing for Vita, but it's less realistic for Vita because it doesn't have L2 and R2 and it doesn't have L3 and R3. So it's just like you're missing out on a lot of buttons. I think that's part of what I think is so cool about the idea of the portal being second screen is because it has all the functionality of a normal DualSense.
Right.
Plus a screen.
It's a DualSense cut in half.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong. I remember thinking the idea sounded stupid, but in my hands, if you find you don't use it, that's one thing. But in my hands, it's crazy that it's just a DualSense with all the functionality with a screen in it. It's cool. It's a cool use of somebody going, maybe people will want this. And it turns out people want it way more than Sony anticipated, which is neat. So
yeah,
but that acts as our segue into talking more about Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, which is where the vast majority of my last few weeks of gaming have been dumped into. I would say I'm pretty far. Chris, I have been... you played the game twice, so I feel like you kind of have to know this. I'm doing the section with Ruthard and Vavak.
Yep.
And I'm pretty close to the end of it. I just got out of a mine.
Oh, nice. That's a good section.
So
you're in my favorite, maybe of all time. This part is why I love the game so much, because it goes from what I was expecting to like, is that what this is about? And I loved that. Like, you're maybe not exactly where I'm thinking you are, but you're close enough to the point where like I feel like the game is one thing and then it becomes something I wasn't expecting. It's great.
I'm very much. I think that the game has got friction points, like we talked about last episode, right? That are purposeful friction points. And I wouldn't say most of the time they're annoying because they're really not. There's times where I'll forget that the save and exit function exists, though sometimes it doesn't.
Yep.
Just want to throw that out there, but I'll forget it exists because it's not really the game never tells you it, and it's not baked into the way the game wants you to think about saving to begin with.
Right.
So there's things like that. So sometimes when we have situations where I want to hop off and do something else, it's not quite as bad, but it kind of reminds me of my problem with Returnal, where it's like I don't want to be playing this fucking game for 3 hours and then want to go play something else and lose all the progress just because I want to go play something else. It's not that bad, thankfully, and there's ways around it. And if you're being conservative with what you're doing, you can avoid that. But it also makes me afraid to like put my PlayStation into sleep mode because if a power outage goes out, I'm like, I could lose hours of gameplay. So I probably need to do the save and exit as often as I can, but I still don't. I'm still just putting my system in sleep mode more often.
Are you not doing any alchemy?
I'm not doing a lot of alchemy. I thought I would be, but I've really not felt the need outside of it would make it easier for specifically Savior Schnapps. That's it. And even then, for as often as I really want them, I have Savior Schnapps on me. I'm never out of them. I think it's the same problem that a lot of RPGs have, where it's like you create scarcity where there may not even be some.
Resource gathering, yeah, that's the thing with Savior Schnapps, because I was upgraded into alchemy, so I had like hundreds of them, and like I was like, this is fine.
I've pretty much only done alchemy when the story has required it.
Dude, you're missing out, because there's like if you don't do alchemy, you won't even experience the part that I thought you would like about the game, which was like how it remembers stuff. Because I shouldn't say that. You could buy poison, but like I remember the first thing that I did
on me right now.
Yeah, the first thing that I did in the game where I was like, oh, Brett would like this game, was like I went
put poison in a food.
Yeah, poison food, and then left, but it was for a quest. So what made it really cool is like I dipped out, and then 10 minutes later down the road, it was like quest complete. And I was like, that's cool.
And that is a cool idea. Yeah. I'll tell you, I'm very much enjoying the game. Clearly, I keep going back to it and playing it. Mm-hmm. We'll have to see, because it's kind of hard to see for what the game is when you're in it fully. Because first of all, I haven't beaten one of the biggest things I know that you said about it is that you thought the story was a big aspect of why you love the game. And while right now, without the fullness of time and story behind me, I can't look at the story as a whole for what it is going to end up being. Mm-hmm. I'm very much enjoying the game. And I don't say this to intend to break your heart. It is what it is right now. I'm enjoying the game an awful lot. And I think if I'd have played it last year, it would have been somewhere along the top of mine. But I think for what I value in games versus what I have so far done in Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, I don't see Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 knocking Claire Obscure, or more importantly, from a comparison standpoint, Tainted Grail from their positions. I think it would have fallen behind both of those still. But I'm not done with the game, and there's plenty of things I still can do. So that's more of a gut feeling right now than a full-on judgment, because there's just too much for me to go through. But I think part of it is I like Tainted Grail's weirdness, and I think this game has some of the, I don't know how to say this without it sounding mean. I don't mean it that way. This game has some technical jank. One of the biggest thing that's actually, it blows my mind, because the game looks pretty great, and this doesn't happen for men, but it does for women. Being able to see the neckline to where they connect the skin of the head to the chest of women, but not for men, is fucking weird. And this game has been out for a year. I don't know why this has not been fixed. And I looked into it, and apparently it's been one of the most commonly requested things for console versions of the game. And the developer just has refused to comment on it.
I didn't even know that was a thing. I didn't notice.
Yeah. Anytime I'm talking to any person and like the clothing for the area, because like they try to have the clothing be era accurate. And of course, women wear a lot of low cut stuff, but you can see this black seam going up, but men don't have it when they're shirtless or if they're wearing anything that's low cut. I don't get it. That's it. Don't get me wrong. It's not the end of the world, but it is weird and jarring whenever it pops up, because it's not even consistent. If it was on all character models, I think it'd be a little easier to come to grips with it. But then I'll come across a girl, or I could, Catherine will be talking to me, and I'm like, oh, you just got this black line around you. And at first I thought, is there something wrong with mine? Do I have a glitch? No, it's just a common console problem.
That's weird. I don't remember that at all.
But all that being said, I like Tainted Grail's weirdness also in how it extends to the more mystical nature of the story. There is something to be said about the fact that this game is very intent on being real. And I also like that even though it's aiming to be realistic as possible, it still uses like dreams and emotional states to give moments that are purposely less than realistic, which is cool. Mm-hmm. I like the juxtaposition between those two. But like, as it stands right now, I think that there was something about the way that Tainted Grail approached game design that I thought was really neat. That I'm not saying is better than this so much as it clicks with something about the way that I like to play games more, insofar as I've played both of them.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like I didn't like Clair Obscur nearly as much as everybody else. So like if I think if I'd liked it as much as everybody else, I wonder where it would land for me.
Mhm.
But like it just didn't appeal to me. But then again, like I don't know what appeals to me about KCG2. But again, I still consider it buying it every time it's on sale because you have my fucking disc. One game I buy on disc because I'm like, oh, Brett won't play it. And I'm like, I got to send this to the fucking guy. But then now I'm like, I need my game back, brother.
It'll be back to you hopefully soon.
No. That's not my. I don't even know what it is about it that keeps me feeling that way. But
yeah,
have you done?
I'm curious to see if it'll feel that way to me when I roll credits. Like, what will that feel like?
Yeah, I'll be curious because I think it wraps up really well. And even like Sean played it, and he doesn't like it even as much as I do, but he said it was like a 9 out of 10 for him. And for him, it all came together like towards the end.
Sure.
And I think
it's a really well made game. Like I don't love putting scores on things, but because it's just the reality of what a lot of people interact with gaming coverage on, and kind of getting a gut feel for it. Like if someone pressed me to put a score on it right now, I'd probably call it like an 8.5 out of 10.
Sure.
And again, currently, I'm not. There's plenty of things I need to. And I think that one of the weird things about games of this type, and we'll get into this in a minute with a conversation, is just there's so much that I actually find reviewing games like this very hard to do, because it's going to depend entirely on how there's so many systems that you don't even have to touch, that it becomes hard for you to fully gauge the game when you may have not interacted with a system that may not be important to your ability to beat the game, but it can change the way you feel about the game, even though it's optional. And I think that that's just the reality of any games of this scope and size. It's so like you go, hey, have you not been doing alchemy? I've done it enough to like I've done it. I know how the game interaction works, and I think it's novel. Just like I've done quite a bit of smithing in the game. That's been where I've done most of my stuff. My craftsman level is like 20 right now.
Are you getting Henry quality stuff yet?
Yeah, I'm working on it. I've got one thing, but I don't like it. It's a weapon. I don't like it as much as the weapon I was already using for a number of reasons. It's too heavy. I'm also learning a lot about the way this game actually looks at weight and stamina usage and things like that, which is pretty cool. But a different conversation I wanted to have is last episode, we had a conversation around a question that we got from one of our patrons, and it was around like what mythologies would you want to see in games, and I think we both ended up bringing up Christianity. And one of the things I thought was really interesting is I just like seeing it being used in any real way for games. And it was kind of cool that I knew this game had like little references to it, but this game spends a lot of time talking about like Christianity, how it differs from Judaism, how the Jews are treated in the world that Christianity is quickly becoming the dominant religion in, and how those differences are stark, but also just how ingrained in the culture it becomes. And like once you get to Gutenberg and you start having you start seeing a lot more churches, and you start to have people who are like proselytizing on the side. I thought it was really neat seeing a game have that be very front and center, and doing so because of historic purposes. Not even like, I know that we were talking about it more like how can you bring a character into these worlds and do unique things with them, but I think it's just being in a world where it's something that's so prominent to where your character mentions it a lot, and like prayer and priest and all these things come together, but not in like a fictionalized way. Because like we're used to seeing people like, oh, he's a priest, but like in Diablo, where like clearly we're talking about something totally different. This is cool. It's like, no, this is just a real priest, and you get to see like the way the world worked, whereas like generally speaking, people treat priests differently because of the thought process behind their role in society. That kind of stuff is pretty neat, and it's cool seeing it here. I would still love to see a game try to kind of do the things that God of War does, and kind of deconstruct and reconstruct and change stories and characters in ways that are familiar but can still surprise you. I think that would be neat, because I think there's a lot of ways you can change those things around to tell interesting stories and give interesting lessons. And And I'm going to go as far as to even say this, to expound on that answer. I don't even care if the game is combat focused, like super combat heavy. I just think it's interesting seeing that. And a good example of something that's a little close to that is the Elohim and kind of religious undertones that you see in games like the Talos Principle 1 and 2. The Talos Principle 2 extends significantly more into Greek mythology and its ideas of gods. But you still have a lot of that undertones there. And I just think that's super cool. And that's not a combat heavy game. Like, it's not combat focused at all. So there's plenty of mileage to go there. But that was something I didn't really see you bring up, even though you were talking about it. How did you kind of jive with the religious surroundings, like the religious drapings that Kingdom Come Deliverance and what is that, 14th century Bohemia, whatever the hell it is?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I thought it was cool. I like that there's a lot of stuff that's like directly about religion there. It's a weird way to say what I'm trying to say, but I'm trying not to spoil things.
Sure.
But I don't know. I think it's weird because like a lot of the stuff, like I'm not a super religious person, but I was raised Christian, and I believe out of fear of being wrong, so I choose to believe.
The old Pascal's wager.
Well, yeah, I've always said which
is interesting. I mean, that's go ahead.
I've always thought, like, if you had the opportunity to sell your soul to the devil, you don't sell your soul to the devil, because being able to do that implies heaven exists. So why would you do that? And that's my same way about following religion. I'm like, we might as well. So to me, it's like,
one of my, that goes back to a thing, because I think it's funny that you said that. I remember whenever I was a teenager, about to be like an adult, and people, for some reason, because I have like heavy goth and metalhead styles, people thought that I was like a Satan worshiper, which I have never been. Satanism's really interesting to like look into and see the way that they talk about, and the people who believe Satan is a real figure versus the people who view him as like a figurehead of an idea and like what he represents for humanity. But I remember back when people would say that, they'd be like, you don't believe in God, you're a Satan worshiper. I'm like, bro, if I worshiped Satan, that implies that I believe in God. I just don't agree with him.
Right.
I'm not a Satan worshiper, but it's kind of impossible to be like a Luciferian Satanism, like the people who believe that he's a real thing. You can't be a Satan worshiper and not believe in God. That just... It's kind of like you said, you can't make a deal with the devil, because if you make a deal with the devil, the implication is that heaven has to exist. So It's like, what the fuck? I've always thought that was so weird, the way people compartmentalize religions in their head, that it's like, if you're of a different religion, even if it agrees that your God exists, in your mind, you're not clicking those two things together. Then It's just a difference of opinion. Yeah. And if we're being real, it's kind of like Muslim religion. It's like, they kind of believe in the same God. They just believe different things around what that. Yeah, I think that's really interesting. And even Jewish people still believe in the same God as Christian people. They just don't believe in Jesus. That's they believe that Jesus existed, but not that he was the Messiah. Let me say it that way.
Right.
So yeah, religion's such an interesting thing, but continue.
No, so I guess the point of that for me was just that, like, a lot of that stuff, like, I grew up around or had seen, so like it's not exploring it in the same way that I would like to see, because for me, I would like to see like the God of War in some way for Christianity, not necessarily the killing and stuff, but more what. Like, show me Jesus, and like have that conversation. Show me, I don't know, make, like I said, like, give me a Judas side quest. I don't know what the fuck, we go fight Pontius Pilate, whatever you want to do.
It's less about into the story to where you're kind of experiencing a version of the story.
Right. I don't need it. It's a cool thing, and I like how it's used in Kingdom Come, but I don't think seeing someone practicing what I've seen practice is as interesting as what I was describing and how I took the question. This might have been more interesting if Henry was a Jew, or if Henry was, Hindu or Muslim, just to see a perspective that I don't have. But like, I've been to church, like, so a lot of the dressing around it is like, okay, yeah, I've seen that. I've done that. I've seen the weird priests being weird and all this kind of stuff, and how some people treat them. So to me, like, seeing the actual, it's cool to see like your religion in there, I guess, but like, you know,
well,
seeing
it's interesting that you say that. I was wondering if Kingdom Come Deliverance, and I assume 1 probably carries a lot of that as well, but at least 2 does. I wonder if this game is off-putting to people who are like violently atheist, violently strong. But you know, people who like, it's funny, you made the joke before we started recording about how realistically I'm agnostic. But I don't get mad when people say I'm atheist, because I think a lot of people just mean that atheist means you don't believe in God. And that's not, I guess that's not entirely untrue. Like, right? Like I can't believe anything I'm unsure of. So in a way, if that's what you mean by atheist, you can call me atheist. That's not really what atheist means. But to that end, I wonder if there are people who are like, it makes them uncomfortable to play a game where that's such a big part of the dressings. Whereas I think it's interesting. And I'm over here like, ooh, I wonder how much this character actually buys into the ideas of Christianity, and how can you use that against them, or how can you use that as a boon for yourself? Because like Henry, the game presents Henry as a believing man. And I think that's really interesting, because you can do things with the beliefs of people in the world as a gameplay mechanic. And I'm sure someone might get uncomfortable with the idea that you can use someone's belief to manipulate them. But I think that that's a cool mechanical idea, actually. But it depends on what you want out of games, you know, and it depends on what you think is sacrilegious and all those things. So it was interesting just having a game so steeped in it, but from a historical standpoint, not even from like a dramatized standpoint. Not that it meets the thing. But Chris, you have, before we get to the final game that we'll talk about, which we played a little bit of together, you have the game that shall not be named. Does that mean that you intend to gloss over the fact that you have still just been dumping more hours into Marathon than homeless dudes pissing on church buildings and alleyways? I mean, what's going on?
I mean, it was there as more of a like, this is the only game I've been playing, which is like objectively true. But there's been other things. So like, originally I wasn't going to talk about anything because I don't want to talk about it, or I just don't have anything else really to say at this point. So I added a couple games in, but it was really like, I'm still playing Marathon. That's really the only game I play. And that, and I guess like, it's funny because I'm splitting my time between 2 live service games, as everyone knows, MLB and Marathon. I guess I did forget to put PBA Bowling. Oh, I'm sorry, the title is really frustrating. PBA Pro Bowling 2026 on my list. I am playing that. But yeah, no, Marathon's good. I have nothing else to say about Marathon. PBA Bowling is not good, but I like it. So
PBA Bowling was an interesting one, because you were talking about it being like one of the hardest platinums that you could essentially do if you were to go for it. Is that dumb part of your brain kind of going like, I need to do it just because it's such a flex, but it's also kind of stupid? You know what I mean? That part of your brain that makes odd decisions.
No, because the thing with the game is that nobody fucking cares about it. You know, like Witcher, KCD, Sekiro, those are all cool ones to be like, yeah, I got these, I did these, like I dedicated to Death March on Witcher 3. Who the fuck cares about PBA Pro Bowling 2026 except me? I
mean, that's kind of fair, but like a good example of a game that I did recently, though it's of course one of the biggest gaming franchises, something that's worth pointing out. But when I went back and got the FIFA 15 Vita Platinum, I just fucking like FIFA 15 on Vita. It's a fun game.
But the thing was, okay,
you know,
you put into perspective.
But you're not even having a good time with the bowling.
It's like I said to Blake, I like it, but I don't recommend it.
I think that's fair. There's games that I like that I'm like, I wouldn't recommend this to people because I don't think that they're going to have the dumbass part of me that seems to click into whatever this is that I'm enjoying.
Like, I've played like 10 hours of it. I've had a good time, but it amounts to,
I don't normally tell people that I got the FIFA 15 Platinum. You know what I mean? Like, that was for me.
No, the thing with this is like, I'm willing to like try hard, quote unquote, with a game that's like, I don't know how to explain it because it sounds like I don't know how to say it. The biggest point is that this game is too hard for me to put in the effort it would take for me to get to the point where I could platinum it, for it to be a game that I would never ever talk about. Like,
that's fair.
For perspective, you have to beat it on Hall of Fame mode, which means you have to get through 10 tiers of PBA bowling stuff to the point where you're bowling against like Pete Weber, fucking, what's the other guy's name? Like EJ Tackett, fucking Jason Belmonte. You're playing against them, and then in Hall of Fame mode, they bowl like them. It's not like that in rookie mode. In rookie mode, I was winning tournaments with 150s. I got to a point where I was better at it, but I switched to the Hall of Fame mode and I lost the tutorial game 15 times.
Damn.
And I was like, I'm not doing that.
Fair
Doesn't
enough.
mean I won't eventually, but it's
and
too
even
much.
Like even my comparison point, I think it took me like 25 hours to platinum FIFA 15 on Vita.
Yeah.
Of course, sports games, it's always a mix of how easy the trophies are, but more often I think it's how good at the game you are. The better you are at the game, the lower that can go down. So yeah, I think spending 25 hours for a game I'm having fun with that has a realistic end goal of a platinum makes sense, even if it's not something I go around. I don't just go around and be like, "Hey guys, look, you're talking to the proud owner of a FIFA 15 Vita Platinum, bro. Back the fuck up."
No, it's
no, that would actually be interesting shit talking to people.
Yeah, it does sound very like weird what I'm trying to say, but it's like in casual conversation, right? Like me and you just met, we start talking about video games, and I go, "Yeah, I like trophies, whatever." I would never list PBA. It would probably be the hardest trophy on my list, and I would never be like, "Yeah, I platinumed, PBA bowling 2026." I would never say that.
I don't know, man. Would it change if even if the person doesn't go, they understand enough about percentages that you're able to go, oh, only 0.01% of players have the platinum? Like, would that add a little sauce to it for you? Because I feel like anybody who knows anything about platinums would be like, oh shit. Like, I don't even have to know the game. That's crazy. Like,
did you know this game existed before I talked about it?
Actually, yes, I did.
Okay, well, that's funny. But I feel like
I can't remember. Well, let me back up. I knew it existed
saw me
before.
Download it.
I knew it existed before you talked about it this week. I can't remember if the reason I heard about it at all was because of you or not. But I know that I knew the game. So,
I never mentioned it to anyone, but you probably got a notification that I downloaded when I bought it like 2 months ago.
Maybe that might have been because I
bought
did get
it
a notification that you downloaded the Tomb Raider games the other day.
I did do that, yeah. I'm gonna give those a shot, maybe. But yeah, it doesn't matter. Like, it's just insane. It's insane how much harder it is. And then again, to be clear, I think the 299 is harder. It's entirely luck. But already in the game, bowling, getting a strike is difficult. Assuming you want to do like hooks and stuff. I'm better at it, but like my best games have been just up the middle. And I haven't even bowled a real 300. I bowled a no tap 300.
299? Is it that you have to get 9 on the final hit, like the final frame?
No, you get 11. Yes, yeah, you have to get 11. You get 11 strikes in a row and then a 9.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
that's so it's not even like you can get a 9 anywhere in the frame because of how compounding strike points works.
No, because think about it. Last season I bowled a 280 and I struck in 11 frames, but I got a 9 spare in the second frame, which, by the way, just want to say that was a pocket 9 spare, which means the lane fucked me, not me. And I didn't get my 300, which would have been hilarious because I joined the team a year ago.
280 is still fucking crazy.
Oh, it was fucking awesome. Like, I got, everyone was happy and hyped up. But like, again, that's the crazy part with bowling, right? It's like my second frame prevented me from any higher than what I got. That's
crazy.
But
crazy shit. Yeah.
Don't buy it unless you really like bowling. Even then, maybe.
Chris, you were absolutely I won't say snoozing. You were absolutely disinterested in our hour and a half of Sea of Thievesing the other day. So for a little story time reference, our buddy Blake, who you may remember from Midweek Matinee when we were pulling that off, hollered at me and said, "Hey, Sea of Thieves is $13 on PlayStation right now."
Blake has been on this show.
Oh, he has. Yeah, as a guest whenever I wasn't here. Yeah, my bad. I forget. And he's been on a spoiler chat as well. I'm pretty sure.
Shout out Callisto Protocol.
All that said, he hits us up, says, "Hey, I'm going to play this." And I'm like, "Yeah, Chris already bought it, so I have it. I can play it." Turns out I already had it downloaded, so it was very easy for me to just go ahead and make sure it was updated and hop back in. And you know what? I had a surprisingly good time. And This is the funniest part of the story. The very first thing we do while waiting for the fourth person who was eventually going to come on was go do the most innocuous, go dig up some treasure. But we happened to go to an island that has this weird like fortress thing that I'd never seen in the game. And it had a gate, like an iron cross gate coming down. And I walked up to it and there's 2 spots for you to raise a lantern and light them. So I did it, which pushed us underneath the island into this crazy like what do they call the space domes, right? Where like you have like an astrological chart going up where you have like the stars and stuff, which is really fucking cool. And we're like rotating it around, and it felt like the cooler parts of like a Destiny raid. And Chris was into this. We were trying to like puzzle solve and everything.
Yeah.
And I was like, look at Chris having a good time. And the moment that we stopped that and went to just doing the rest of the normal Sea of Thieves thing, your engagement dropped so hard. With every 5 minutes, less and less words are coming out of Chris's mouth. Mind you, I could not believe you were playing the game at all, because when Blake asked if I wanted to play, I said, who knows? I doubt we're going to be able to, but it'd be funny if we could pull Chris off of his like just consistent marathon, binging. And lo and behold, first time we pop in, I go to say something about Kingdom Come, and I hear your voice. Didn't know you were in the thing. And I go, what the fuck is Chris doing here? Turns out it was to play some pirates. So quickly, because I feel like you don't have a ton to say, we were kind of having a conversation about those types of games, or rather, I should say, what games give you as a sense of what options games have that you can latch onto to give you a sense of progression or meaning. And I think my position was that ultimately, I think a lot of what Sea of Thieves has to offer is similarly, you just have to choose to make it important to you to feel good about doing the things the game has to offer. And I know that you were saying you felt like it wasn't as engaging for you as Marathon. And I still feel like at least what I was attempting to get across, whether or not you actually got that from what I was saying, was that I think in games like that are kind of meant to be played, I don't want to say that they're forever games, but they're meant to be played for a long time, ideally with you never quite leaving them, or even if you do, you eventually come back to them and continue to play more and experience something new. I think most games like that, it really is you have to find the thing that's important to you within that gameplay loop, because the gameplay loop can't be to an actual end entirely. Because if it does go to an end, you will just lose all motivation to play because you completed what it is. So it's kind of antithetical to the idea of a games as a service. So with that in mind, I know you felt like Sea of Thieves was lacking that. What do you think Sea of Thieves is lacking for you? And this is more of a thought experience. What would you change about Sea of Thieves to make it more compelling to you?
I mean, the answer... I almost want to be a little petty with my answer and say nothing because it's not for me.
Sure.
But
that's why we call it a thought experiment. It's for you to look at what the game does offer and look at how you could tweak it. Basically, I want you to... What would you change that you would view as minimal changing? Like, you're not changing the entire... you're not changing the entire... The game is still a pirate game. You're still on the ship. But what would you change at the small levels that would actually change your sense of engagement with the game? It seems like progression was somewhere along there, because I do think Sea of Thieves has one of the loosest feeling forms of progression, even though there technically is a progression in the game.
I guess... I don't know. Part of it is that I don't know the game very well. I can say that, but there's no. I don't know. I guess for me, like the thing I think with it is that in a hobby that is entirely, for the most part, about wasting time, that game feels the most like I'm wasting time. It doesn't. I'm not trying to be like a dick about it, because like we all know I didn't have fun. But to be clear, the only reason that you guys got me to hop off marathons because you hit me up at 12:30 in that night. So I was done. My friends had hopped off marathon. Not that you're not my friends, but they had hopped off marathon. So that was why I was playing PBA bowling 2026. I couldn't say no. I'm like obligated. So, like, there's an argument that the game is fun because you're doing pirate shit with your friends. but it kind of almost had the same problem of all the other games that we've tried to play where you have 100 hours in it and I don't, is like you guys knew what you were doing and I didn't. So it was just a matter of following you. Even the one part I was engaged in, you guys left me so far behind that I almost missed the puzzle. If you guys were smarter, I would have missed the puzzle. And that's not even like a big deal. It's just like what I was playing was follow you guys and then get put in jail because I don't know how to play the game.
Oh, that was just us fucking with you, though.
It was, but it was also like, I'm sure if like, you know, the joke that you guys were making was like, oh, Chris isn't doing anything. It was like, yeah, no shit, because the most fun I'm having is sitting on the front of the boat playing with my instrument. I'm not doing anything.
Again, totally just fucking with you. Not because I was mad at all. And actually, I wasn't going to do that. But Blake just messaged me and be like, votes a lot, Chris in the brig. What I have to assume is he hit pause for some reason. And it's the first thing you see on the start menu is the option to vote a member into the brig. And I think it was like, it'd be funny.
It's funny. I'm not even, that's not even, I don't even mean it in like a negative way.
I know. But that was surprising because immediately you get thrown to jail and you're just like, what the fuck? and I just spin up this live. Oh yeah, the game put you in jail because you weren't doing anything. And it looks at your performance as a pirate. And it viewed that you were poorly assisting your pirate crew. As if the game thought pirates were like super honorable. You would never leave someone to do more work on the boat than you. Yeah,
right.
Yeah, I fucking would.
Easy.
You know, I think that's fair, though. The game is not really a survival game. And I would say that kind of not in line with what you've experienced from survival games, where I think a lot of people do this. You're so trying to take your opportunity to get someone into the survival game that you're trying to like dump a bunch of stuff on them. I don't think we were doing that here, but I think what was happening is, even though we weren't like, there's plenty of stuff I hadn't done in the game because I hadn't played in a while, but there was still the general sense of we were just more adept than you. And even though we weren't trying to, as we mentioned last week, right, we weren't trying to Sherpa you realistically. I don't think at any point we were like, no, Chris, this is what you have to do. But by nature of how we're playing the game, we already know what we're doing. So we're at least base level. So we're already like dropping sails, dropping anchor, changing the wind angle, going to the map, marking the things. And I'm not saying you've not played enough Sea of Thieves to do that. Maybe you have. But it's still, like you said, I think it's clear that we've done this for 100 hours and you haven't.
Yeah. And that was the thing. It was like,
I feel like you weren't, and that's not saying you're wrong for this, but I feel like what's part of happening is that you weren't able to buy into the experience of being a pirate. And as dumb as that sounds, one of the things I like so much about this game is it kind of does the old Batman review joke. It makes you feel like Batman. I do like that, even though you're right, this game is it's got a weird sense of pace that if you're used to other games, I don't like. It's not as moment to moment as Marathon, even when you're not against an enemy in Marathon. Marathon has a tension to it, and so does games like Ark that usually is realistically not in Sea of Thieves, because a lot of the game is downtime, making small tweaks every minute and a half while you're sailing. It's like, oh, I could raise the sail up a little bit. Oh, I could change the angle a little bit. Oh, I got to go a little more northwest. And that is like the time where when typically when playing it, I think part of it is we're playing with Blake. I played with Blake a lot. So I think we have that rapport with each other. We're just going and going and going. So I think it feels like now that we're sailing and getting there, we're fucking around between the micro measurements. You were just fucking around entirely because you weren't. I don't know. I do wonder if you just hopped in. I think you've done this, but I think if you really I wonder if you hopped in and really embraced just soloing a ship, how would you feel about the game?
I don't know. I don't know. I feel like this is going to sound really fucking theater kid of me, but whatever. I didn't get this feeling of like, oh, we're being pirates because we weren't being pirates, you know? And like, I don't do this I'm not even talking about the game, right? It's like there was no true buy-in from any of us that we were being pirates. There was no, and I don't even know that I actually want this, but it's just like the way I feel about it is like we weren't fucking like singing like we weren't like pretending to be pirates. So to me, like you have to want to experience being a pirate falls apart for me when what you mean is hold R2 so that I repair the ship wall, or get water out of the brig, out of the bottom. Like that's not being a pirate, that's being a janitor. And that's
Chris,
how yeah.
I have a proposal for you. Because
Okay.
I don't think that that's an entirely unfair point. You're talking about a much stronger version of it than I was getting at, but it's still a point. Could I convince you to play with us one more time under the obligation that every single person in the party has to talk like a pirate? We have to treat the situation as though we are really pirates. We have to be like, "Arr, starboard, we've been hit." And I will go all the way fucking
because
in.
Objectively, that's
curious.
more fun regardless. No matter what you say, that's more fun.
Like, dude, basically pirate D&D. Like, let's fucking do it. And I bet you we could get Blake to do it. I bet.
That would
and if
be
we can't,
more fun.
If we can't, we will get him. And I want to be like, angle the sails, matey. And then you have to go over there and be like, which way? Turn them east. I don't care. I'll figure it out.
And that's the thing. Like, I would play it with you guys again. It's not like I didn't love the.
I was fucking
tired.
I want you to be like into it. And I'm not saying you're wrong that you weren't into it, but now that you've said that, I want to push that to its full limit. I will fucking do it. I don't know if you remember when we were playing Baldur's Gate and we were trying to do voice acting, me and you were both into it.
Yeah.
And then someone got out. I can't remember if it was Sean. Someone kept acting like doing the voice acting was stupid. And I was like, I kind of think it's fun.
Yeah. I'm down to do it. Like, it sounds like it'd be fun.
Don't get me wrong, you'll sound like an absolute jackass to everybody who can hear you doing
around
this.
You.
But like you said, in a medium that's all about wasting time, if we're being honest, why not fucking just max out the way that you're wasting that time? I agree that it will probably be arguably more interesting if we do that and break as little as possible. Like, the only thing we'll come down to is like, what will it mean for the socializing aspects? Do we need to socialize in character? Do we need to and be like, I was getting drunk on the, Outlook post the other day.
Oh, I'm not doing nothing. I'm just going to sit here and play my guitar.
I have visited a bathhouse. Finest horrors in all the oceans.
I don't know. It's like, even that's like, but even what we're talking about is like it's almost a step further than what I even would want, which is just like being on the boat. I didn't find engaging until we were doing something.
Yeah, like, dude, I felt like at that point, I think you were already checked out. And like you said, it was late and I could tell you were tired, different things too.
Yeah.
But at the point that we were like, the ghost ships were attacking us and we were fighting off the Meg and we ended up hitting the edge of the world. All of that was fun because it was just chaos.
Yes, I had fun during that. The puzzle, this is like the whole problem I have with Sea of Thieves. The puzzle was really fun. The fight was really fun. Everything else, with respect to you guys, you like it. Everything else fucking blew. And the puzzle and the fight were 10 total minutes. So I had an hour and a half of playing Marvel Snap because straight up, that's what I did. I was playing Marvel Snap the entire time we were playing. So this is fucking boring. I'm exhausted and I don't understand what I'm doing. And it's not even a you guys thing. Blake was doing the sails and doing the anchor, and you were driving. The fuck else am I supposed to do?
Be on the crow's nest looking out, be like, hey, this is what we see. I mean, I'm just offering opinions of things that you can do to feel if you felt like you didn't have anything going on. All that said, though, Chris, you also just have ADHD. And I don't know that this game is moment to moment exciting enough, short of us actually going so far into it that you're engaged in the story around it. Like that, like, we can make ourselves an infamous gang of pirates and try to build make stories of, we failed the Meg last week,
And I think it would be fun. And I wonder if my opinion would change if like we did a whole campaign. Like if we did the whole Pirates of the Caribbean thing and then went out into the open world, I might feel differently because like I've played GTA games where all I'm doing is walking around, collecting shit, but I've bought in at that point, Yeah. I had no buy-in at that on that session. So for me, it was a little whatever.
Well, we're going to work on that, Chris. But you know what we're going to do before we work on that?
Aye, Captain. What?
We're going to answer this question from one of our patrons. Mr. Jehudi MD came across and said, what game would you prefer? A 50-hour-long game you play once or a 10-hour game that is replayable? I defer to you, good sir.
I'm sorry, repeat that?
What game would you prefer? This is more like you don't have to put a name to it.
Okay.
Would you prefer a game that's 50 hours long, but you only play it once? Or would you prefer a 10-hour game with replayability?
How easy are the trophies?
Chris, I thought we broke this.
I still don't have MLBs. That tells you something.
You know what? Oddly enough, I'm proud of you.
That's a hard question. Obviously, we're talking single player games. This isn't a multiplayer game that kills itself after 50 hours.
And what multiplayer game would you say is 10 hours long? Yeah.
Yeah. Concord.
2 weeks.
Which we didn't say
almost
the name of our ship in Sea of Thieves, which was maybe the funniest part of the whole thing to me.
Oh yeah, we named our ship the Concorde 2, and you know what's really? Oh, by the way, it was Concorde. No, sorry, it was Concorde also. Because at first it was Concorde 2, and then I was like, what about Concorde TOO? And then we landed on Concorde also. And you know, Chris, I want you to know that we ended the night with the ship breaking apart and us drowning. Think about that.
That's the Concorde experience.
We were the Concorde dev. I don't even remember their fucking name anymore.
Firewalk.
We were Firewalk.
I feel like I gotta go 50 hours. Like, okay. It's almost a hard question because you didn't name them. Because like Yakuza is like a 10 to 15 hour game that's pretty replayable, but that I don't replay. At least the older ones. The new ones are obviously JRPGs are ridiculous. But like a 50 hour game with a I wouldn't replay is like The Witcher. You know,
that's like every fucking game now.
Red Dead.
To be honest with you,
yeah.
See, so here's my thing. I will answer the question at its own value. But I'm going to actually tell you, I want to completely fuck the question up and say what I would prefer is a 50-hour game with replayability and a 10-hour game that I play once. Because that is what I think gaming was and what I consider to kind of be peak gaming of late PS3 to mid PS4. I think the best time for gaming was when we were getting 10 to 12 hour Uncharted and The Last of Us and The Order 1886. I know that but point being is games like that, Uncharted 4 10-year anniversary just came up. A game I re-downloaded because I want to play it again finally. I've only played it once. But point being, realistically speaking, a 10-hour game that I don't think anybody really considers Uncharted to be highly replayable in the way that they would be like, oh, Resident Evil's replayable. But in my opinion, I think that they're actually pretty equally replayable because all that Resident Evil does is just give you tools in the game that you can employ. You could impose those rules on any game. You could be like, I'm going to see if I can beat Uncharted in 3 hours. And you might be able to. Uncharted 1's only about 6 hours. It's like 6 to 8. I think first playthrough it's like 8 to 10. Now I'm getting into talking about it like The Order, where realistically the first playthrough of The Order is like 8 to 10 hours, but you can beat The Order in 5-6 hours. You can beat Uncharted 1 5-6 hours. I think even less if you really try to, and you're good. Uncharted 1 actually has so many fucking enemy encounters, and they're hard because they have monster closets behind you for some fucking reason. But where I'm going at with that is I think the ideal time of gaming was when there was a lot of 10-hour, and 10 hours are rough, but roughly 10-hour games that you weren't necessarily intended to play over and over again, and you had the occasional 50-hour game that was highly replayable. Skyrim is a highly replayable game. Oblivion is a highly replayable game. Fallout 3 is a highly replayable game. Fallout New Vegas is a highly replayable game. I think what's cool about that is at the time, they were the exception, not the rule. People are so scared of a game being, and we've talked about this a lot, but developers, really, I guess publishers, are so scared of a game being viewed as a 10-hour one and done that they will pump a game full of unnecessary shit just to make it hit 30 hours, even though it's still not. It's even arguably it's less replayable at 30 hours than a better game at 10 hours that's not full of dumb shit that you'll have a better time with. Therefore, eventually want to be like, I want to play through Uncharted again. Like Uncharted 4 may be a linear game that doesn't change a whole lot, but guess what? I've played Uncharted 1, 2, and 3 times each.
Yeah. I don't know, maybe people won't understand this, but like I kind of feel like a 10 to 12 the shorter games tend to feel like movies to me, where it's like, okay, I've done it, I've seen it, I probably won't watch that again, but if I do, I'm not watching it in a serious way, where like
you can
I'll
like engage with it passively.
Yeah, exactly. Like I'll throw on Uncharted starring Tom Holland, because I said it to Blake, but it's just like sometimes cool shit's just happening in that movie. It's not a good movie, but anytime you look at that TV, there's something interesting going on. And I feel that way with 10 to 15 hour games, where it's like even shorter than that. 10 to 15 hours is a little long, but like something like The Darkness, right?
That game.
That's a fucking great game, but you play it once, you see it all the way through, and then you don't really think much about it again until right now we're having this conversation. One of us will probably throw The Darkness 2 on at some point, just because like, oh, fuck it. Yeah. Oh, it's on PS now. Let's run that. Let's play The Darkness 2 for 2 hours, and you won't finish it, but you've done it. Right. And like, there's something to me about a game like The Witcher or Red Dead or KCD 2 where it's an experience, and I'm going to be Henry, or I'm going to be Arthur for the next 100 hours. It's a deliberate choice, and I would rather replay those and feel it in that extended way and see that than something with a smaller game, because I feel like it's more digestible. So to me, it's a little bit more. I guess I don't necessarily know if I'm explaining what I'm trying to say right.
I get what you mean, because I think it kind of creeps into what my complaint.
You can be more immersed in a bigger game,
and that's part of what my problem is with some of these modern games that are aiming to be so long, but only because you can tell that they're just trying to find a way to pad the game length out. Because realistically, there's not enough depth in a game like Ghost of Yotei for me to really want to play Ghost of Yotei again in the same way as I'd want to play a Skyrim, because there's not enough variation of things to do, because it's really a game that for a long time would have been a 20-hour max game that has been stretched out to be 50 hours because they're so afraid of what people will say to it. And you may still be able to play it in 20 if you really hyper focus on just mainlining the story. But it's hard to do that because the game is trying to distract you as much as it can to make you feel like you're playing it longer, because they're so worried that at the end of the 18 hours, somebody may go, this game was only 18 hours. It's fucking stupid. I can't believe I spent $70 on this. Whereas I'm over here, and I know I really do feel myself differently here. I'm over here fucking begging to pay $70 for an Uncharted 5. And I don't really mean Uncharted 5, but with a game with the same design mythos, where they're like, this is just going to be a really story, character-driven moment where there's a lot of cool shit going on. It's impeccably made, and we make the game look so good. And it's short and sweet, but it just really knows what it's doing. And whenever you do go to replay it, because like I get what you mean, but I think one of the differences again, Chris, with how your ADHD presents itself, I really never jump into a game and play it for 2 hours. I replay a lot of games that people don't consider to be replayable, but it's usually there's a long enough gap between them. They're like, when I go to play Uncharted 4 now, it will have been 10 years since I've played it. And I am going to engage with it seriously again, because I know it's a great game, but it's been long enough that its little intricacies will be more lost on me, so I'll be able to buy in a lot more. Now, that depends. Is Uncharted 4 a game that you're going to want to replay 3 times in the same year? For certain people, yes, but for the vast majority of people, no. But I would love to have a game right now, and like I'm kind of thinking of dropping everything when 007 comes out, because I think it's pretty dope that IO Interactive have made a game that when they just recently showed it, running at 60 frames per second on PS5 Pro, looking fucking really good. And I think that IO Interactive, being a studio that's not normally known for this stuff, making a game that I think that they said it was like 15 to 18 hours long and has a lot of these big action set piece moments. When's the last time you saw a game do this? It's been a long time. I want to support that shit, and I really don't want to let it pass. I want to feel that in the moment. And so I kind of think like hopefully I'll be done with Kingdom Come by then. And if not, maybe I'm close enough that I feel okay taking a break to play that and then coming back to it. But I want to go and like as quickly as possible support that, because I want to see more studios do that. And more publishers have the balls to be like, we want to fund that. Because I think it's kind of surprising that 007 is being made in the way that it is, because it's so against what AAA gaming has become.
Yeah. It's funny that you said that, because I was waiting for you to finish so I could be like, all right, put your money where your mouth is, because Uncharted First Light comes out next week.
Uncharted First Light.
Dude, that's an Uncharted game.
Yeah, it looks really good. And I mean,
It does look good.
Yeah, the little things they're doing to change it. But I'm so down for that. I mean, like, I just miss that being the time where we had games doing that. So I'm curious to see. I know that making games at that level of quality with where they are now just seems so expensive, and people are worried about the return on investment. But my thing is that if you made Uncharted 4, if you think about it, most of Uncharted 4 basically had to be completely restarted when Amy Hennig left. They kept some stuff, but they pretty much made that game in 3 years. And that game is an insane thing to make it 3 years. And I think one of the things that's interesting to talk about there is that waiting 3 years for a game to have the kind of presence that Uncharted 4 had is a really, that time to investment you get back feels worth it to me. I think it's really hard, and I think this is something we're going to see with the Elder Scrolls 6 coming. It will have been, if Elder Scrolls 6 came out this year, it will have been, 14 years since Skyrim? 15
Something
years.
along those lines, yeah.
So if it has been 15 years since Skyrim...
2011.
I don't know how I would feel that the investment time, but like the amount of time it took to make this was worth the investment that I have towards it, because it's fighting a battle of, it's been being made for so long and the expectations have grown so big, not only because fans just wanted something to happen with the franchise anyway, but gaming keeps changing those expectations. I think when you start getting to where it takes you 15 years to make a sequel to something that you're not going to make massive changes to, most likely, for being honest, I don't know how you keep doing that and it feel worth the squeeze. Whereas I think it was a lot easier for me to feel like, man, my $70 was worth it because I only had to wait 2 to 3 years for a game type that I love. But I may just generally be in the minority there. But we know that people kind of do things in like waves and like trends come and go. I think eventually gaming's going to have to swing back toward a trend of smaller, insane, like big budget, tight experiences that are just really memorable. And they're going to move away from every game trying to be this 50-hour thing. I feel like it has to happen. The pendulum has to swing back eventually. I'm just curious to see if 007 is the actual start of that, or is it just a weird blip before we get to that years down from now,
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Games they'll go back. They have to. Cheaper.
Yeah, I don't know. But I don't know how to say this. I don't think you played I don't know if you played it at all, or at least I don't think you played it enough to beat it. Or maybe even much of it at all. While I'm playing Kingdom Come, something about the way that Kingdom Come presents itself, I'm getting vibes of Banishers, Ghost of New Eden, or whatever it's called. Mm-hmm. I can't figure out why. I don't know if it's like the timepiece aspect of it or what, but there's vibes that I'm getting there. And that's been interesting because as an aside to that, Banishers felt like a lot of what I'm talking about, even though it still did expand the game a little bit. Banishers had a lot of the stuff I was talking about in there, but in a AA sense. So even if it just were to actually be, and unfortunately Banishers didn't seem to do great, so it's probably not going to be, but if AA would have become the version of that, like Hellblade almost made me think too for a bit, like the first Hellblade, where AA just became the 8 to 12 hour game with good production values and had this memorable thing. I would have liked that, but it just seems like that hadn't happened either. So
yeah, I mean, we gotta it's a tired topic, so we don't have to go into it, but games got to find a way to be cheaper, man. That they do. Like, you look at movies and you can make something like Obsession on $750K. 16 million box office is pretty fucking good on $750K. But
yes,
if the budget was 80 million, we'd have some problems. It's the same.
Well, yeah, and like, it's funny. My wife and I watched Sent Help finally, and I wanted to see it in theaters, and I didn't get to. But as I was watching, I was like, I wonder what this did in theaters. 40 million budget, which is pretty low for a movie these days, realistically. Not crazy low, but pretty low all the same. 96 million at the box office. That's good.
Yeah.
Not as good as 16 million at 750, but point being is,
right,
there has to be a moment where we kind of look at that. But it is interesting because for some reason movies tend to, I don't want to say be immune, but people look at movie budgets versus what they do in a much different light. A game being that budget, people will look at it and be like, that's not a big game, I don't want to give it my time. And that does still happen in movies. There's people who are not going to watch Obsession because it's not a blockbuster.
Yeah, I mean, it happens in everything, but I think it doesn't matter as long as your scale is proper. Like,
yeah, because at that scale, enough people will do it that it's profitable.
Yeah, I could go out right now and make, maybe there's a little hubris, but I think I could go out right now, spend a month on a script and make a decent found footage horror movie for $1,500, and $1,200 of that budget is the iPhone that I already paid for. Like, but like me doing that it's not going to make $20 million, but it might make $600, and a $600 return on, nothing spent basically is good enough, and it's the same translation.
Yeah. Well, speaking of games coming back around, this is a slightly different meaning of the way, but the first piece of news we have is that, surprisingly, I remember seeing this and being like, what, again? Darksiders War Mastered Edition is back again, this time with a native PS5 and Xbox Series X and S release. The remaster adds 4K support, 60 frames per second, faster load times, and even a photo mode for anyone wanting to get glam shots of the apocalypse. Interestingly, Xbox players who already own the game get a free upgrade, while PlayStation users have to pay $10 to upgrade from the PS4 version, which has, unsurprisingly, annoyed fans. If you're buying fresh, though, the going price is $29.99, and I think $30 for Darksiders, even as old as it is, 2010, so 16 years old. I think that's a fair price. That's not, if you've never played it, I think there's enough game there and enough quality. I don't have a ton to say about this other than the fact that this is promising to the fact that they clearly want to do more with Darksiders, and they're seemingly not going to give up on it. And that's been my thing, is as somebody who likes Darksiders, the more that they just continue to do anything with the franchise, the more hopes I have that they'll actually come through and making a final Darksiders game. So we'll see what actually comes of that. I mean, they tease the next Darksiders, but that doesn't mean it's actually going to make it to market. But I'll give, I guess it's technically Embracer, GmbH, whatever. I'll give them a little credit. They've done a pretty good job of, if they say they're going to do something and they announce it, it comes to market.
Yeah.
I haven't thought of a much that they've done that has specifically been killed outside of when they went a little too buy happy and had to kind of shed some weight.
Cool. Yeah, I don't know, man. This is cool. Like, I've tried to play the Darksiders games and never gotten into it. I might give this one a chance and see if maybe it's moderned up a little bit. But
out of curiosity, which ones have you played? Have you played this one, and was it this one that kind of gave you that feel?
Genesis. I think that's the name of it.
Genesis is a very different type of game. I love Genesis, but I don't think that it's guaranteed that if you like Darksiders, you'll like Genesis. I think it's a very specific lining up of people who like the genre that Genesis is in and like Darksiders. I tend to tell people, I think Darksiders 1's a great game, and I think it's really cool if you're going to get into the series to have it as reference. But I tend to tell people from a starting playing standpoint, I think 2 is a much better game to get into. It's better made, it's better paced, better written. It plays better, feels better. It's more modern, a little less aged. And I think that game still feels good as a game released now, in a way that I think War Mastered Edition, even though they've tried to do some things to alleviate it, it still is dated from a design standpoint. I think 2 fixed a lot of that. So if you can get around to 2, I think 2's got the best mix of everything in the series. 3's great, but it's much more Souls-like inspired, and it just depends. The coolest thing about Darksiders is that all 4 games are pretty different.
Yeah.
That's not great for getting into a series that is sequel connected. Each story does somewhat matter to the other one. I think that's fine in a series like Final Fantasy, where 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 don't give a shit about each other in any real way. It's a little ballsy to have very connected stories of 1, 2, 3, and Genesis, and they all play very differently because there's no guarantee that you're going to be a fan of each of those genres.
So what you're saying is Darksiders walked so that Greedfall could trip and fall flat on its face?
Basically, yes. Thankfully, Darksiders has continued to handle that with a much more aplomb than Greedfall 2 did, unfortunately. it's continued to shake things up, but normally, even maybe if it didn't make enough money every time, maybe let me say this, maybe if it wasn't a massive success, every time it's reviewed pretty solid and it's sold well enough to continue the series. And I think that that's good enough. Like you said, Darksiders is a good example of games just being affordable and working within what you know you can get a return on investment from. Mm-hmm. I just think most developers aren't willing to have something just be what they know it can be. And I think Embracer has at least realized that there are people that will show up for Darksiders. And so as long as they make it within a budget constraint for what they feel like people will show up for, they can continue to make Darksiders for as long as there's someone who wants to make something for it. And that's a good spot to be in. I just feel like every other publisher is so concerned with being the next big thing that they're afraid to just let there be a market for the game and make games within that pocket of a market. JRPGs are like the fucking king of that.
Yeah, absolutely are.
So is what it is. Next piece of news is a little more exciting and a little more interesting and probably have a little more to say about. And that is that Sony has reportedly confirmed it's done bringing its major single-player exclusives to PC, with Bloomberg confirming what they initially brought to light earlier this year about an apparent shift in Sony's strategy. That means future narrative-heavy games like Wolverine and Intergalactic are expected to stay locked to PlayStation consoles, with Sony apparently deciding PC ports just weren't worth it financially anymore. The one exception seems to be multiplayer and live service titles, which will still launch on both PS5 and PC. So basically, if it's a big story-driven first-party PlayStation game, PC players may be out of luck going forward unless Sony changes course again. This is interesting because it kind of feels like PlayStation doubling down on the old school buy the box for the exclusive strategy that some Xbox fans are vocally suggesting Xbox return to, which I think is more unlikely than what we're seeing here. This is not super surprising. I think that there's reason to look at this and go, this is kind of shitty. And I think that, interestingly, Chris, I saw you post it. Paul Tassi posted something earlier on X, Twitter, whatever, saying that this is the right move for PlayStation, even if it's not the right move for all players. And I think that that's actually perfectly sums it up. Yeah. This may not be the most ideal move for literally the entirety of gaming, because it does mean that less players are going to have access to these games. But I think that this is important because I have long said, even as we were going into the PlayStation 5, and you did as well, that exclusives just still matter. For whatever reason, they do matter. And I think we're seeing that. Like, to what degree they matter, we'll have to see. But we're seeing a lot of people talk about Xbox and the fact that they want to see Xbox return to exclusives, which means that there's a pretty vocal section of Xbox who feel like part of the reason Xbox has drifted and why they themselves have drifted from Xbox is that they completely stopped engaging with the idea of you make banger exclusives to tell people why they should play on your platform, and then you just reap the benefits of everything else they buy on your platform. Chris, you were a big pusher towards Xbox eventually going all games everywhere, in many ways because that's what we were being told by them. Even before they were saying it out loud, they were saying it between the lines, in my opinion, right? If you read between the lines.
Yeah.
I think PlayStation have kind of been doing the same thing here, but I think that you would also say that this is probably for the better. But I'm curious to see what your thoughts are on this.
I mean, it's a weird thing because I think this is where something I've preached almost the whole time I've been on the show, right? This is great for PlayStation players. This makes the PlayStation let me rephrase. It should. We don't know what the future holds for games. The rest of PlayStation exclusives could suck from now on. I don't think that's going to happen. But my point is that exclusives are what makes the box valuable. It's the reason, it's why you go, okay, yeah, I have a PlayStation. This is why, that's how these companies, worked forever. And I think the only reason that you could ever argue exclusives didn't matter is if Xbox well and truly bowed out, because then there would be no exclusives. But this is what I've never understood. If there's 3 companies selling consoles to you, right? You can take Nintendo out of there because there are millions of primary Switch players, but a lot of people as the Switch is a complementary console, right? So the big battle is between Xbox and Sony. And this is the thing with Xbox. If all of your games are on Sony or are on PlayStation, why would I buy an Xbox? What's the reason that you would buy an Xbox? there's no answer to that question other than the answer that's been true the whole time is your backwards compatible library, your achievements, and your friends list. Those are the only things that beyond exclusive games sell the console. And there's never been a good argument on in what world is that enough? In what world is it enough that my friends are there? I shouldn't say in what world, but like why is that enough? Is if that's a selling point for you, it's probably because all your friends are on Xbox. But why is it a selling point for them? And then it becomes even harder to sell an Xbox because okay, well, I can get an Xbox because all my friends are here, but if we all just go to PlayStation, we have Uncharted and Halo. So let's just play on PlayStation. You know, yeah, sure, you lose the digital libraries. That's the big thing.
Well, friends list, I think, has started to matter less too, with both consoles making Discord integration a thing and cross-platform play for multiplayer games usually being a thing. You can literally have a party chat with someone on a different console and play games with someone on a different console these days. So in a way, I think it's kind of obvious, but that's one of the things that the push towards multi-platform has done, or rather crossplay has done, with alongside the push on, at least on like Xbox's side too, for multi-platform. Yeah. But of course, I think big games like Apex and Fortnite and whatnot being cross platform for the specific play is a big reason why this has happened. And whether or not that was even Xbox's intent, they suffer from the fact of once that stops being a big important thing, it's one part of a big puzzle. And it's a pretty big part of the puzzle that pushes people away from it because now you don't feel that, well, I need to be with where my friends are. But I do want to ask something, Chris, because I think you use iPhone, correct? Mm-hmm. Okay, and I use Android. Yes. And I think it's interesting to kind of go towards looking at the consoles and looking at phones and kind of seeing what parallels do and don't exist between them. And my first thought whenever you said, like, why might you buy one over the other is the same thought I usually have over Android versus, in my case, if I'm being honest, Android versus other Android versus iPhone. And that is just a preference in how you interact with it. But I think the difference for phones and consoles, and I'm curious to see if this is kind of where you land on this, I feel like it probably is that while I think that that's a real conversation with your phone because you interact with it so much more throughout the day and it's such a more of a genuine extension of yourself in a modern society, that interacting with your phone, even though you can go, well, the apps are the same as games in the way that they're multi-platform, right? Like, and that's not entirely true. There are definitely exclusive apps for both sides. But for the most part, what apps are available are usually not the thing that decides the phone for someone. It's how it feels to use and how it works as a moment-to-moment thing. And then it kind of does double back to some of the things you're talking about. Well, because my friends have the iPhone, I can do this with them. I can FaceTime them and I can, airdrop things to them. And I can have this form of basically instant messaging where I can see that they've read and they can react. But those walls have been collapsing on phones as well. But what I have noticed is as those walls continues to collapse and Apple does more things to try and do things that Android does, and Android does more things to try and be like Apple does. And like now Google Pixel can airdrop to iPhone. That's funny. Which is kind of crazy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And now RCS messaging is making it to where iMessage still exists, but RCS message seamlessly integrates with it. So that part's gone. You can't tell if someone's even on Android or not realistically anymore. The way that it functions as a messaging standpoint, all of the same feature sets are there. Maybe you can still tell, but the point being is
you can't tell.
But all the point being is the read receipts are still there. Everything that you've used to, the only thing that might still be there is the thing saying that, hey, you're a different color text blob.
Yeah, it's green. That's why.
But functionally speaking, nothing else is different. You can react to it, and it doesn't do that stupid shit where if someone reacts to my message on iPhone, it sends me an SMS going, Chris Figs reacted to your thing with this emoji, which I also is so stupid. It's like, okay. So that's been nice, but I don't feel like we've seen the same exodus, right? I don't think we've not seen the same oh, well, now that iPhone has this feature, or now that Android has this feature, people aren't just suddenly going to the other and going, well, there's no reason to have an iPhone. And I think that's because your phone is so much more about the way you interact with it. As much as people have a preference of the way you interact with a console, I think the PS3's XMB is one of the best ways to interact with a console ever. It works really well, and it's seamless, and I really like it. And that does matter. But what do you spend the vast majority of time doing on your console? Playing games. Mm-hmm. So therefore, at the end of the day, I think there's a much more push to say that while there's some similarities between phones and consoles being so game focused as they really are, and as history has shown us players really like them to be, the more you try to make them not a console, the more people get pissed and just go to whoever's making it more like a games machine. It clearly means that games are the differentiating factor. And so as weird as it may seem, I think consoles and the way that games and the way you interact with games just means that consoles have a reason to have exclusives in a way that other markets don't. It doesn't make sense to have exclusive Blu-rays that only work on your specific Blu-ray player, because that's not really the way you interact with the medium. Do you kind of agree with that?
I get what you're saying. Yeah, I do. I don't know. Look, I think I've said this before. I was trying to say it earlier. I just didn't. I mean, it's Sony is in the business of helping Sony players. They're not in the business of helping Steam players. Well, and that's what I've never understood about these arguments of, like, even Paul's. It's like, what do you mean? Because why does Sony have to cater to other audiences? They're not trying to sell to you, you know? I think it's a good thing if they do. This doesn't affect me if you can play Days Gone on Steam. I have Days Gone installed on my computer.
Yeah.
You know, like, it doesn't change anything for me, but I think it's there are a lot of people who I don't mean this to be mean, but there are a lot of people in the games industry who fancy themselves smart, but can't see the forest for the tree, right? They can't understand the business reality of, well, games should just be for everyone. I should be able to play this on my Xbox. But like, if you step back for 30 seconds and actually like understood the business that you're engaging in, you would understand that Sony is not trying to sell to Xbox players. It's why, like, I really don't like that. It's not that I don't like it, but I find it really dumb when people try to have conversations about games, and we'll talk about layoffs and all of this kind of stuff, and then be like, well, I don't give a shit about their business. I don't care how much money it costs them. I'm like, okay, but then you don't understand why these decisions are being made. I don't like that Blue Point was closed, but when you hear the stories that basically they couldn't get a game off the ground, and then you go, well, yeah, okay, that makes sense that they're closed. But then you'll have people who are like, hey, it sucks. They should just be open forever because people can't lose jobs and whatever it is. You have to understand the business and you have to understand everything else. And like, that's not to say I could take Herman Holtz's job. I don't understand the business that well, but I do understand profit and loss. And Sony's trying to bring the profit up. There may be some loss there, but the idea of exclusives is to, like you said, have people buy the console and then spend their money with you. So in the end, exclusives just make complete sense.
I think a way to like clarify what you're saying, because I know that this is what you mean, but I think choice of words can help for anybody else who may be hearing what you're saying in a different way, is PlayStation is trying to sell to Xbox players, but they're not trying to sell to Xbox players by way of just making it easy to get their games on Xbox's platform. What they want to do when they're selling to Xbox players is they want to sell the idea of the PlayStation being something that is exclusive and worth being there for, so that you either outright stop playing Xbox and join them, therefore becoming one of the people that they are more overtly pushing to. Basically, it's like by making being a PlayStation player something that's more special, you have a higher chance of pulling people from another pool over to you because there's more unique to pull you into it. And since their business model relies on you buying games from them, they want to make their place seem like a destination place.
Right.
Now, what happens on the PlayStation side... Yeah, go ahead.
They're not trying to sell to Xbox players. They're trying to convert Xbox players into PlayStation players.
Yeah. And I think what gets interesting about this setup is when you're in PlayStation shoes and you're doing well, and you have enough people to at least maintain a profit and do those things that you're in the the market position to be able to do that and be able to continue to bolster that and try and get that even higher, right? I think the flip side of it, and I think it's also part of why people got so mad when Xbox did what they did, is that for a long time, what you heard was Xbox saying, we're buying these studios and we're making their games exclusives because we have a duty to Xbox players to make our console the place to be, the place to play, and to make them feel like they made the right choice. And their thought process that you would imagine at the same time of saying that is, they wanted to make Xbox a destination so that at the very least you either bought an Xbox to play their games and hopefully bought a little bit more, or you outright made the Xbox your only console, right? That's what they were going for seemingly at that time. But then it wasn't that long afterwards that we started hearing, well, these 3 games are going to PlayStation. Well, these 2 more games are going to PlayStation. Well, pretty much every game we have is going to PlayStation. And of course, we all can look at it and point as to the Activision thing being what did that. But I still think it is a big whiplash for people. And this PlayStation's done the same thing. They've had some whiplashy decisions as well. You could even view this for certain people being a whiplash situation where you started to think one way about them and then it got whipped out from underneath you. But I think that most PlayStation players are not going to care about that. And that's where PlayStation's money's at. So they're trying to bump that back up. Whereas Xbox's core group of people felt betrayed when they got told, we're buying these things to give you premier games so that you know that you chose the right place to play, just for that to be broken within 3 years. Like within the same console generation. So it's like, not only did I never get the validation of being that I didn't get the validation of choosing the right box. You just gave all my games to somewhere else that I could have bought into. And I get that. But where Xbox was, I still think you can look at it as paradoxical to say it's the right move for Sony to double down on exclusives, and it's the wrong move for Xbox to do that. But I think the reality is where their market position is. Xbox may be making money right now, but that's because they did not have the market position to make money this way by making their console the destination box, because it just kept not working for them. And even though they made these purchases, it was taking too long for their games to come out because of games being too expensive, game development taking too long, all the problems we talk about all the time on these shows. And we're not the only people that do it, of course. But what happens is the only way for Xbox to really turn that business into something that can make money is to go as broad as you possibly can. So yeah, it is weird that the right thing for Sony to do most likely is to double down and make their self a destination, while the right thing for Xbox to do is continue to be as broad as possible. But that's just the reality of the markets they found themselves in.
Yeah. I think there's a path forward for Xbox, just as there is for there is for any of these companies. I just don't know what they're going to do. I don't know if in a world where you have to please shareholders and a boss who seems kind of ambivalent to the whole games console market in general. I don't know if you
games market in general.
Right. Yeah. Satya doesn't give a fuck. I wonder if they're willing to spend the capital and resources and time and all of that to make their games exclusive again. Yeah, because we talk about it all the time.
I would applaud it. That may sound weird for me to say. I'm excited to be able to play their games that I do care about on PlayStation, but I would be the first person that if they announce that, I would be like, I feel like this is probably not the right move, but I respect that you had the balls to try it.
Yeah,
and I would
exactly
be like,
how
cool, let's go.
I'd be like, great. I guess I'll catch up on Halo in 5 years when it comes back to PS5. But good for you for trying.
Or
honestly,
you have a 5-year window to maybe be proven wrong and go, holy shit, I actually really want to buy an Xbox so I can play this game.
Yeah, I just don't think the general market is as dumb as us.
Maybe. And then it has to be more than that, because even then they want you to buy the console and continue to buy games on it.
Yeah.
They don't want you to buy the console just to play Halo.
They could only win. The thing for me is that the exclusives that we're really talking about, Gears, Halo, Forza, didn't sell Xbox consoles. So the only way that they can really spin the block is Bethesda and Activision are exclusive, but they can't do that. But I shouldn't say Bethesda, but they could never make Call of Duty exclusive. 0% chance they could ever do that. And I think at this point, like, you're probably looking at them like, all right, well, Xbox Game Studios. So whatever, anything out of those studios. But, if you were Bethesda, if you were Activision, you go third party, you make your money there. But Xbox Game Studios, the Xbox Game Studios exclusives didn't sell consoles.
Yeah.
So you need to go into the parts that people are kind of like, well, I don't know if those can be exclusive. If they're not exclusive, it's not going to work. So I'm fascinated to see it. I hope they rock the world. I don't know if they will, but I hope they do.
Well, hey, it's funny that you brought up the Xbox and what they could do to change, because they have been going through a number of changes, as we talked about the other day, as a result of their new CEO. And one of the questions we have from longtime listener, longtime patron Josh Ayers, who went over to patreon.com/Nartech and gave as little as $1 per month to support the show. Thank you, Josh. We appreciate it. He says, thoughts on Xbox becoming Xbox? So if you haven't seen, there was a tweet, and actually I haven't seen the follow-up tweet, but I did see the tweet from the CEO where she was asking Xbox, as we've been seeing it, or XBOX, all caps. And I'm assuming what happened is, I've been seeing a lot of this, maybe they actually chose to go all caps like the original Xbox actually showed itself to be, and even the 360. With all that said, I think the bigger conversation here is something we've kind of already been brushing on a little bit, Chris. But a lot of this is, we were talking about this other day, and this, when we were playing Sea of Thieves, ironically, is this idea of, I actually think that the CEO is doing a surprisingly good job of making people feel listened to, which is something that, as much as people liked Good Guy Phil, I think towards the latter couple of years of his reign there and his tenure, I think that he was saying things that he was hoping people would like, but I don't think he was doing much to make fans feel like they were listening, like that he was listening to what they were saying. And I think, interestingly enough, even though it's mostly for show, I think this new person has come in and has done a lot of community engagement and has been making small changes that can make the community of people who still care enough about Xbox as a brand to want to engage, and making those changes to give a sense of hope and camaraderie amongst themselves. So my real thoughts on Xbox becoming all caps Xbox is that I like seeing, as much as we thought it was weird at the moment that they did it, I have surprisingly enjoyed seeing this person come in and change the logo, change the boot screen for the console, to like the little splash screen animation and music that came up. Talk about potential changes, remove AI, because even though it's a pretty easy win and probably something they were already planning on doing, what happens is you get to see people going, we don't want AI on our consoles. And then you just go, okay, cool, we listened to you and removed it. It doesn't really matter why. What matters is that the perception was you listened to people. And if you can continue that, there might be a real way in which Xbox can come back, maybe not in the exact form that they were, but in a form that is stronger and has a real sense of brand identity that I think Xbox had started to lose. Do you agree with that, Chris?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm glad that you said that it was a lot of for show, because that's been my thing watching all this, is like, none of this is real, Like I'm sorry, dude, renaming it to capital Xbox.
Yeah.
It's not a real thing, but that's good. It's good that the community is engaged on that. You're right. Exactly. To me, I don't know, maybe I'm naive, but all of this stuff to me sends the message that exclusives are not coming back. I don't know if that's like me hoping, in some part of me hoping just to see, Gears on PlayStation because I don't want to buy an Xbox. Probably. But like, also, if exclusives were back on the menu, they would just say that. They would not be wasting time with all capital letters in Xbox. They would not be wasting time with a new startup intro.
Agreed.
And that's the thing. To me, the fact that people are eating that up is exactly what it's the perfect setup for. Asha's listening. She didn't do this, but she's listening to us everywhere else. It sucks that Gears isn't exclusive, but maybe it's because it was already down the pipeline. And then it'll just, but she's listening. We got a new startup sound. Achievements are different. Oh man, I really thought that Halo 2 Combat Evolved was going to be exclusive to Xbox, But you know what? They got Halo 1, so it makes sense. All the new Halos are exclusive, and then you get something else that's not real, but you guys asked for it. You get what I'm saying? Backwards compatibility is better.
I get what you mean. It could be a double-edged sword, right? By way, you could be giving people hope and saying, oh, they're listening. It's only a matter of time before they listen to this one thing. And that is true. That can definitely happen. But I think the more important thing that comes from this is if that is a reality that they actually want to go toward, like we said, again, I will applaud that. If they really do want to go towards being exclusive and dude, that would be actually, that would feel like Xbox's No Man's Sky moment, if we're being honest. That would actually be ballsy as shit and just go away and come back and say, all of our games are exclusive. We will honor the ones that we've already said. Like Fable will still hit PlayStation. We've already done enough work. But moving forward, any game that we've not announced as multi-platform will be exclusive here on out. And this is what we're doing, and this is the idea, and this is our company, like our mission statement. I think all that stuff would be really cool. But I think a cool thing that can come from this is getting fans to engage. And even if they don't listen to that one thing, the more you listen and the more you listen, the more that you create a sense of community and a sense of culture around Xbox that you can build alongside this big radical change that they're doing with Orion, where they're approaching this more like it's a PC, where pricing differently. We're not even considering this a console, really. This is a very different way to interact with games. And what you can do alongside this is create an Xbox that maybe doesn't even need to compete with PlayStation in any real sense. There will be people like us who are hanger-ons who remember the console wars, and therefore there will be people who, I think, unlike us, will be far more into keeping the console wars alive and saying, like, Xbox sucks and they're failing. But I think I could see myself really going like, hey, this isn't the Xbox that was, but this is Xbox turning into something that actually means something now, because the Xbox One, definitely into the Xbox Series generation, Xbox didn't really have an identity. And the best thing they can do for themselves is have an identity, even if it's new and different. And I think that's what we were all hoping for, even when the Series X was coming out, I remember Saul saying it, and I remember you saying it, like, there is a reality that the Series X could just change the paradigm to where you can't even compete because they're just doing such different things. But unfortunately, Microsoft talked like they were going to make a lot of different changes, but they really didn't do the things that they thought that they were kind of amping into, or at least the market didn't react to the way they did. And instead of pushing through and really trying to make it work, they just gave up and kind of filtered through to what makes them the most money in the more immediate future, which is a completely viable thing to do. And I understand it. But yeah, I think that this could just be the beginning of us getting a sense of culture behind Xbox again, alongside this, for all intents and purposes, soft reboot for Xbox as a brand. This is the God of War. This could be the God of War 2018 of Xbox. It's the same name, the same character, but we're completely changing the way that you view it and interact with it and how it's perceived and what it means. You know?
Agreed. Yeah.
All right, so we've got another piece of news here, and this one is maybe on the flip side a little against PlayStation. More price increases. Sony is raising the price of PlayStation Plus again, this time hitting new subscribers with higher monthly and 3-month costs starting May 20th. A 1-month PS Plus Essential sub is going from $9.99 to $10.99, while the 3-month option jumps from $24.99 to $27.99, with Sony blaming the increase on, quote, ongoing market conditions. The good news is current subscribers are safer now as long as they are subscribed, as long as they stay subscribed, and the 12-month plan doesn't appear to be changing. Still, with this coming right after recent PS5 price hikes, it's no surprise that players are understandably getting a little tired of hearing market conditions every time a company intends to make their wallets a little lighter. I don't have a ton to say about this. I don't love this, and I think that PlayStation were in a position where they made PlayStation Plus such a cool idea for a service when it was alongside games being free to play online. And I know that they did this because of Xbox and made it to where you have a paywall behind it. And I'm glad that there's been like ebb and flow between them. Like PlayStation still making free-to-play games not require PS Plus and eventually forcing Xbox to adopt that same policy and vice versa. And I know that Xbox raised the price of Xbox Game Pass and Gold like insane and then had to adjust back down because of people saying what they said. So none of this is really a big surprise. And I know that realistically, the world's in a crazy spot. Prices are going all over the place. And the reality is it probably is realistically market conditions. But I think they probably could have fought more to continue to keep this a better value because coincidentally, alongside this, some gaming website ran a poll over whether or not people still felt like PS Plus Essentials was a value, and only 18% of people agreed that it was a value. And that's not a good spot for your thing to be in. Even if people are doing it because you force them into it, generally speaking, you want the morale around your services to be better. And this means that if it was already like that and then you're adding to the price, you're just going to make that worse. You still have to find a way to make PS Plus feel like a better value, even if you don't change the price. Value doesn't have to mean dollar amount, but it does have to mean that you feel like you're getting something worth out of your dollar amount. And I think PlayStation's had a hard time of that. Definitely for even for a while there, I thought that premium was a good value because they kept adding a lot of classic games. And then they slowed down considerably. They might be picking up again. But Chris, you're a PS Plus subscriber. I'm a PS Plus subscriber. I wouldn't say that I consider it a bad value, but I also wouldn't say I continue to view it as a great value either, definitely with the way I interact with it. What do you feel about this? Is this a big deal or is this just the reality of the market?
I mean, I think you can. There's no take I disagree with here. There's probably market realities. It's also a service Sony never charged for before, so it's probably just been being hypocrites. I don't know what the answer is. I don't know how expensive it is to get PS Plus games. I don't know how expensive it is to do bare minimum ports without even trophies for your classic catalog. I don't know how expensive it is to not do any work on the games that you're releasing only to your highest paying customers. I don't know what all that costs. So maybe it is the market conditions. It is definitely possible that doing absolutely nothing costs more than it did last week. But I can't really speak to that.
Yeah. It's interesting to say across the board how this is kind of going. It's seeing price increases happen. This just feels like a normal ebb and flow of any market where eventually prices have to rise. But I still think that there's a lot that Sony could do to try and make this feel like a better value while having the price have to adjust. But like you said, we don't know the back ends enough. It's just at the end of the day, it not feeling like a good value is still not great for Sony because over time, that could hurt. They could actually start shedding more and more subscribers, and this is a big part of their income. This is a big part of their earnings, and they talk about it almost every call because it's a huge source of their revenue. So we'll see how people continue to go with it. For now, I think that a lot of people are voicing valid concerns, but I have a feeling we'll see what we always see, and that people will voice their concerns, but then they'll continue to keep their subscription because it's essentially required in many ways, and you don't really have a better alternative, so you just keep going with what you have available. And it's almost like the inverse of what we were talking about with dual screen devices. It's very unlikely that changes are going to get made because much like nobody was buying into and messing with the second screen things, and therefore people just kind of dropped it, Sony has no reason to make changes here because no one is engaging with it in a way that would force their hand to do that. The only way that you actually have a chance of them making this a better value is by starting to shed the numbers massively so that they have to go, how do we make this a better thing so people come back to it and we have that strong source of consistent revenue? But it seems unlikely people are going to actually do that. So it'll just continue to go in a cycle.
Exactly. Prices never go down, guys. Not
prices, yeah, unfortunately. The next thing that we have is a big piece of kind of a wow factor that kind of went through yesterday and the day before, if I'm not mistaken. PSN security. So some fresh PlayStation security concerns popped up this week after fellow PlayStation podcast Sacred Symbols host Colin Moriarty revealed that his PSN account had been hacked. According to Moriarty, he wasn't phished or tricked into giving up his info, but still got hit with the account changes, including his email being swapped out and two-factor authentication being disabled. What's making the story bigger is that it's fueling ongoing concerns around possible social engineering exploits targeting PlayStation accounts, where bad actors may be using customer support processes to gain access to people's accounts. Moriarty has since recovered his account, thanks to help from Sony contacts, but even he admitted his status in the PlayStation community likely helped speed that up. So while the situation ended up well for him, it's raising concerns about just how secure a regular user's PSN accounts really are right now. And I think one of the interesting things to add into that too, I forgot to write it in here, is that there's a high chance in everything that's looking on here that this is possibly also coming from within PlayStation. Like there is someone inside that has a bend against certain people and therefore are using their ability to access these things to their advantage somehow, some way. That's a bad look. And I really do hope that this is something that Sony, definitely given the 2011 outage, I think that it would behoove Sony to be very quick to say, we are looking into this in every way, shape, form. This is serious. We do not want a repeat of this. We do not want people to feel like they cannot trust being on our things, because tying back into what we were just talking about with PS Plus, all of this plays into that as well. People are not going to want to be on PS Plus and be on your platform giving that money if they don't trust your account to begin with. So this feels like a crazy moment. And it was really interesting reading through Colin's thread of things about how it was going down and how he got warned beforehand, not by someone being malicious, but someone saying, like, by all accounts, it seems like you're going to be on a list of people who are just being targeted. And then also Dustin getting a message from Colin's account while it was hacked saying, you're next. That is fucking ominous, really crazy. And I hope that Dustin doesn't get hit with that, because even though it got resolved quickly, you shouldn't have to go through this at all.
No.
This needs to be handled, and I don't love this even for me. We're like small-time podcasters, let's be real, and I don't know who we'd piss off, but it's possible that we could piss someone off, and it's not a great idea that someone could just call. At worst, someone within can just decide to fuck us up. At best, for this situation, someone could call in and find a way to get past lazy PlayStation Network customer service people and just use that as a way to change stuff without any validation being made. This sucks. Chris, you're much bigger. You stay actively involved with Sacred Symbols as to where I do not. I'm sure you'll end up hearing Colin talk about this on the podcast. I would be really surprised if he didn't. What are your thoughts on this?
2 hours of the show.
Like, of course, the Colin of it is interesting, because I think the good thing about Colin is that someone big getting hit, people have that, what sucks because you got help so much quicker because of your position, which is probably true. But what's great is that this is a bigger person having this happen to. So PlayStation has a much bigger, loud reason to look and go, oh shit, this has become a thing people are aware of. We might need to do something about this quicker than we would have had to have when it was kind of small fry. What is your take here?
My take is this is fucking insane. Because like reading through it, and then ironically, like I watched, like Blake sent it to me, the Sacred streaming that day. You see it happen in the stream. Like, you see him like find out and realize what's going. He's like, I'm getting a bunch of these weird emails. And he's like, oh, I've been signed out of my account. I gotta go. My account's been hacked. And he left. It was weird. It's funny because like this is not a challenge, but like I think it would be harder to hack any of my accounts outside, because I lie on all of the answers. Like my name for my PSN is Kodiak Wintergreen, and you're not going to guess any of the other shit because none of it's real. So like it doesn't matter to me. And even like security questions, it's nothing to do with the question. So like I've never been super worried about that end. But it is concerning. Like if there is someone in PlayStation, like or in Sony who might be going after them, that seems insane to me.
I'm not saying it is what's happening.
Only possible,
but it wouldn't. Yeah. In that
especially
position,
because Colin was saying he didn't there's no world where he got phished. That's what he was saying. Like there was no phishing scam.
Yeah,
so
because
yeah,
you kind of know, right? Like you have those moments where if you clicked on something, you're like, I can't say for certain, but I feel weird about this, and I might have just done something. And then when this happens, you go, shit, I did get fished. You know what I mean? You already have a suspicion when that moment comes. You don't. I've never seen someone do this outside of older people who just don't get phishing at all. Like I have a woman I work with, bless her heart, sweet lady. She gets hit every time, and she gets hit by the one that our IT department sends out to test to see if you'll fall for it. Oh and every time she gets it and it goes, we're sorry, you failed the phishing simulation. We need you to take a test to explain to you how to look for phishing. She's had to take the same test like 15 times. It's funny, but she's gotten to the point where anytime she gets an email that she even has like the slightest reason to be, she'll just ask me, is this phishing or not? Because she doesn't know what to do. So
no, this
outside
is Patrick.
outside of people like that who are just like, technology is not her strong suit. That's fine. People like Colin who are like technology is responsible for their living in multiple ways. Both podcasting requires computers, editing, all those things. Gaming requires you to be on computer, like you're on hardware. You have a better understanding than a lot of people.
Sure.
Doesn't mean it's impossible to get fished. So I believe that he didn't get fished. So it leaves you with very few options. Either PlayStation has a really bad customer service thing that are willing to make sweeping changes to your account with no validation whatsoever. That is hugely worrying. And that's probably, unfortunately, the more realistic aspect of what's going on here. Or there's someone on the inside who is doing some stuff, either literally themselves or is leaking information to people so that they can handle this. You know what I mean? Because you can also do that, just leak account information over to people that you just want to target. And unfortunately, in the world we live in, we know that people are not past doing these things. People will do whatever it is that floats their fancy if they think they can get away with it. So this sucks. That's basically all I have to say about it. But we do have, I think we've been touching on this, but in case this brings up anything else we want to touch on, Rude Cold, one of our longtime listeners and patrons, he said, thoughts on account safety with PlayStation, especially after Colin Moriarty was targeted and hacked under suspicious circumstances. I want to reassert that I think that I could see someone viewing this as ultimately unimportant, but I would say that given the history and what happened in 2011, PlayStation has every reason to treat this as essentially the 2011 hack. Because if you treat it like this now before it gets worse, you have a much higher chance of stopping it and cutting it off at the source before it can get as bad as it could get. But what do you think, Chris?
Yeah, I don't know, man. I hope they fucking figure it all out. It's crazy.
I'll say this is where you can kind of have where do you really feel? We talked about like belief is something that you kind of stake your life on last episode. This idea of your actions really affirm your beliefs more than anything. I think we both think that this is a bad thing, and we both have some concerns over long-term safety. But I would say that most people who are talking about this is a challenge I'd say to anyone. Are you removing like your credit card information and stuff from your account right now? Because if you're not, then it's probably not as big of a deal as you might think it is. I think it depends on every person. I think it's a big deal. But I think with where we are at right now with it, I don't think it's that imperative that I go and do that immediately. But it does have me on alert to look for other things, because if too much more happens, I probably will go in there and go ahead and just decouple all of my cards and just go about buying PlayStation Network cards in a different way to fund my wallet until this feels like it's been resolved. What do you think, Chris? Do you feel like you have a desire to go and extra protect yourself?
No. Yeah, no, I just think like I don't know. It's naivete most likely, but like I just don't believe that I would ever get hit with this. If I did, I would be like, oh, that fucking sucks. And then I would call Sony and work it out with them and then call my bank and get my card.
The only thing I want to say is
like,
I doubt Colin thought he would ever get hit with this, but he is a much bigger target. I'll give him that.
I was about to say, like, that's almost ridiculous to even compare me to him. Like,
yeah.
What are you talking about?
But what I mean by that is, like he was saying in his thread, all the things that you're usually told are there for your, like, he did everything right. He had two-factor authentication. He had not fallen for phishing, like all of those things. He did everything that a normal person would think within your reasonable ability control security-wise that you could do, and yet he still got.
Yeah. Again, like, I'm sure I'm naive, and me even saying this on the internet, some dude's gonna see it and fuck with my shit. But
prove you wrong.
I've said it already. Like, I think given all of my shit is fake, you couldn't even get into this account. Like, it's really the least of my worries, because I don't think I could get back into my account if I couldn't remember the password.
That's not good though, Chris.
I know it's not good. But I genuinely
your security issue is a completely different one than anyone else's right now.
I have a security issue, but I do also have access to the email at the very least. So I have access to the email. The credit card is obviously mine. Like I could get my shit back if I really had to fight for it. But I don't know. I'm just like, I probably should take my PSN down. It's just, I know myself, or not my PSN, but my card out of there. But I know myself well enough to know that I would take it down and then put it back the second I wanted something else. I'm not going to go to Walgreens and buy gift cards because I want First Light. I'm just going to put my card in.
I might actually take mine down just more as an experiment than anything, because now that I think about it, Chris, I can't remember the last time I bought something on my card. Every digital game I buy with reward points that I have fucking way too many of. And it's gotten to the point where I have so many that anytime I go to get them, even if the game's $70 or $60 or $50, I just go ahead and tell it to give me $100 worth of PSN store credit and send me the card, just so that next time I want to buy something, I can probably just do it with what's already in my wallet. So I can't think of the last time that it charged my card for anything other than billing my PlayStation network. And that's where they catch you in this catch-22, because right now, if I fuck up and don't pay for my PSN and have to resubscribe as a new user, my price is going to go up. The bastards. It all comes full circle. All right, Chris, let's scooch on to the next thing. We have one more topic before we get into a listener question to round the show off. We have growing expectations that a new PlayStation State of Play is coming soon have been filling up social media feeds based on Sony's usual showcase timing patterns and a dose of typical rumors. If it does happen, it'll likely follow the standard format, mix of new trailers, gameplay reveals, and a lot of release dates updates as studios firm up their 2026 plans. Third-party games usually take center stage, with a few first-party updates and the occasional surprise announcement sprinkled in, unless Sony defies expectations and starts talking about PS6 in spite of the state of the memory market, which, as we've seen with what's happened this year with what we were supposed to get with the Steam machine and what we've not gotten yet, I think that there's going to be some delay over what they originally were thinking. But with that, Chris, the bulk of this topic is going to come down to a question that we got from Stingray X, longtime listener, longtime patron. Thank you guys for being patrons. He says, what are your predictions for the upcoming State of Play? Now, seeing as though I've already kind of put in the thrown in the fire that I don't believe PS6 is anywhere on the horizon, nor do I think that they would do it at the quote unquote pseudo E3 State of Play, which is what this would be. This will be the late May, early June one that kind of follows their E3 timing and the Summer Games Fest stuff. That doesn't feel like what you talk about there. So it feels like the primary thing is just games for PlayStation that can be coming around. So what do you think? You got any top of the bill listing for what you expect to see?
Honestly, and most interestingly, at least most interesting to me is the only thing I can think of is Tokon and Saros DLC, which is kind of exciting, and Wolverine. So you got three things. So it's almost exciting in a way of like, I don't wonder what they could show. Like that would probably be a great time to show Grand Theft Auto. Will they?
I have a lot of curiosity. I don't think, even though I think PlayStation will have the marketing, I don't think that means they'll get the next trailer. I think Rockstar has had very obvious signs that the best way for them to do it is to have complete control over their marketing, release it on their own socials, their own platforms, and then still benefit from PlayStation doing marketing elsewhere. You get what I'm saying? Like, you get to have your cake and eat it too. I just don't see why they would do that unless Sony just really fucking pushes them. They could. I'm not saying it's impossible. They could.
When was the last State of Play?
February? Yeah,
maybe we'll see.
That sounds correct.
Yeah, I mean, it was a It was a shitty state of play. I don't know what was in here. Yeah, there was nothing crazy in here, and it's got 1 million views. I know that's not a ton, but think of all the other views it got. That's not to say, to be clear, that's not to say that Rockstar putting out a GTA trailer on their own wouldn't do numbers. It's just I'm saying, like, they have eyes. Like, those are eyes that are watching a PlayStation thing. Maybe they want to put that trailer there.
I think it's kind of crazy that you said it was a shitty one. I mean, I think what you probably mean is like low stakes. Like, there clearly wasn't meant to be a grand
there's no like
reveal in there.
Yeah,
but you
that's
like
what I mean.
Kina and God of War trilogy and Saros and Tokon were all shown off in that, as well as plenty of other little things. So I guess depending on how you feel, I guess you got the reveal that Metal Gear Solid 4 is coming in the next thing. You got God of War Sons of Sparta, which now that it's out, you may feel a little different. We also got a 007 First Light trailer in there. I mean, realistically, it was a pretty good one. I don't know. I think I remember that being our feeling. It's not Beast of Reincarnation got shown.
I'm not saying I don't even necessarily mean like shitty in a bad way. It's just it wasn't like a barn burner one. It wasn't, so yep. I don't even know what I'm comparing it to, but I'm just saying, like, everything else out there, it's good, but I don't know that they don't need Sony, but that doesn't mean it won't show up there. Be a bigger help to Sony, which in the end, if Rockstar wants to sell PlayStations, which, if they're doing the advertising for Sony, they have some investment in, well, at least we want people to buy the game. We want to sell more consoles, and we're helping Sony sell consoles. Maybe getting 50 million eyes on a state of play is a good thing for both of them. I don't know. The reality is we'll probably get the Rockstar trailer on the 22nd, and then we'll see it again on the 24th. Like, that's what we'll have.
That might be the case, because I'll tell you, one of the things that I think is also interesting is that if it stayed exclusive to the state of play, I could see it being a big pull. One of the biggest problems is that the state of play happens, and then they just upload all the trailers individually still, and so there's actually no reason to watch. There's no reason to watch the state of play, because you can just see everything that was in there and just find the Grand Theft Auto trailer separate from the state of play. So and why are people going to watch the state of play if they have no reason to believe that that trailer is going to be there? Like,
you say that like people weren't staring at Best Buy today or yesterday. Like, true. I mean, that's if there's true. I'd be willing to bet I'll say this declaratively: if Rockstar doesn't put out a trailer before the state of play, this will be the most watched state of play of all time.
Yeah, maybe
there will be rumors that it's going to happen at the state of play if it doesn't happen before. So 10 million
on the flip side, you're also going to have if it doesn't happen at that state of play, you're going to have the biggest revolt of a state of play.
Dude, it was so funny to see people crying about the Game Informer thing. Did you see that going around?
No, I guess not.
So
what do you mean?
The new game on the Game Informer cover is Blood of the Dawnwalker.
Yeah.
And the way that they had hyped it up led delusional people to think that
it was going to be
GTA was going to be the cover of Game Informer. The Game Informer, not owned by anybody anymore, by the way, is going. So basically, when it was announced as Blood of the Dawnwalker, people flipped the fuck out on Game Informer for misleading the audience.
That's crazy. Look, I could see you thinking that maybe it would be Grand Theft Auto 5 hitting the cover back in 2013 when Game Informer was in a much better spot.
Yeah, owned by GameStop, the people helping you sell your game. Like,
yeah. That's crazy. Interesting all the same. I think I'm going to be real with you. I think what I've learned, even though I think I've actually been pretty right with a lot of my predictions, I think it's been a mixed bag. I've been right more often than I thought I would be right.
Sure.
But I think I've also learned that it's so hard to predict what's coming here. And like, to get this out of the way, there's been rumors. Whether or not there's any value to those rumors remains to be seen, but there are rumors that we're going to see Hogwarts Legacy 2 revealed here, which I could believe. I have no reason not to believe that. Hogwarts Legacy 1 got shown, I'm pretty sure, in State of Plays or during one of the showcases back when they were still called that. Hogwarts Legacy had PlayStation exclusive DLC. There's like, a mission, whatever you want to call it. And PlayStation clearly had marketing advantage on it. So it wouldn't surprise me, but I'm also not going to fall on I think that's what's happening. I am also curious if we would actually see a Hogwarts Legacy 2 this soon. And I know that sounds crazy to say this soon after what Hogwarts Legacy came out in 21 or 22?
I believe it was 21.
Let's find out real quick. Hogwarts Legacy release date. Oh God, Legacy
24.
released in 2023.
Oh wow.
I'm gonna be real. If we even get an announcement 3 years after the game came out, that I'm gonna be impressed.
I don't know. Aren't dev cycles 5 years? And it's a game called Hogwarts Legacy. I don't think we're going to a new place.
Yeah. so you have you know what? As weird as it is, I would be completely okay with them doing essentially not even calling a Hogwarts Legacy 2, but just basically doing a Miles Morales style Hogwarts Legacy standalone game where it reuses a lot of the same map but does some new shit. I think that's a great idea, actually.
Yeah. Dude, it would be so... I hope they do a trilogy of games and it all take place in different eras just so that the ending of the last game can be just this image that only would go hard to Harry Potter fans. Is just this small baby on a porch, and it's just it ends with the beginning of the first Harry Potter book. That's what I want to see from this trilogy.
The fucking the written out scene of where you see them like dropping Harry off, and all
that would be even funnier if it just cuts to black in the audiobook of the first chapter of Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone starts playing. You see Dumbledore leave the castle, and then all of a sudden it's just black, and then Stephen Fry is reading the book.
A dark, windy night. Like, okay, here we are.
The game is another like 26 hours, and it's just all 7 books tacked onto the ending of it.
Bro, that would be so funny. They would never do that. That's money on the table, but that would be so. Actually, it'd be so funny if the only way you could do it is beating the game. And there's no way to redo it. You can't even redo the end of the game. Like, they do the thing that I complained about in Horizon where you can't replay the last mission. So even though you can hop back into the world, the only way for you to read all the books is to just rebeat the game in the final mission again.
You know what the most fucked thing to do in that scenario would be too?
What's that?
Bronze trophy for watching it all. And the trophy is just named Kojima would be pleased. That's it. That's the whole.
What an insane thing. So realistically looking here, I think it's clear and obvious that we would see Wolverine just because this is their time. They've already given it a release date. This is their time to really do a dive into gameplay. Though, as crazy as it sounds, I could also see them being like showing a short trailer and going, you'll see in-depth gameplay at a state of play in July. And that's it.
That honestly makes more sense.
And just leave it alone.
Comes out, what, 4 months from today, right?
September?
Yes, September 19th. I think so.
I think that might be right.
Yeah, so 4 months from today.
With that in mind, I feel like, is this now finally time for us to see Intergalactic again? Something in my gut tells me no. Something tells me that if we see Intergalactic again this year at all, it will be that Sony decides to slide it in and give it to Jeff as like a one last thing at the Game Awards.
Though they did. I mean, they did. I think yes.
You think it's time?
I think it's time, but we're not going to see it in a traditional way.
Ooh, what do you mean by that? You would be super specific, but what is that like? No,
I'll be super specific because the more specific I am, the funnier it is if I'm right. What I would expect is you see the Naughty Dog logo, you see a little bit of a trailer, and then it cuts and it's Neil Druckmann talking about Intergalactic, and then it'll end with a new shot and it will say we'll see more, you'll see more next year, and then it'll say late 2027, and then that's it. It's going to be, we'll see more footage, but it's just going to be Neil talking about the game.
Yeah, maybe. Because right now we're a year and a half almost out from its initial reveal.
Yeah. So I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised to see it at the Game Awards. Like that seems like a Game Awards time that you would show it. And it would, so it wouldn't surprise me to be like, hey,
well, then at that point, I feel like they wouldn't talk about it this time at all. They would let it really be from a thing where it's like absence makes the heart grow fonder kind of thing, where it's like they don't talk about the game at all until it just pops up as a surprise during Game Awards.
I don't know. I think the problem is it's been too long without anything from Naughty Dog.
Yeah.
And I feel like a really good way for Sony to get some kind of good PR is to have Intergalactic there. You're seeing Wolverine. Saros just launched. Maybe we're seeing the Bend game, and we know what Sony Santa Monica is on. We probably see the Faye spinoff. So in a way, what I feel like they do just by mentioning Intergalactic is turning this into here's an update on Sony first party. We're not doing that bad wink, wink, nudge, nudge kind of thing. Like this
and
seems like a really
little
good
reminder where it's like, hey, these are all only playable on PlayStation 5 now as well. Like
Exactly.
there won't be a future where you'll play these on PC like you expected for a while.
Yeah.
Maybe. I could see that. I think it'd be interesting to do that around which the only thing that's interesting about that is that Sony still themselves have not come out with a thing and said, we are pedaling back. They've basically relied on Bloomberg to go, hey, we're hearing rumblings that this is what happened, to then Bloomberg going, hey, it was specifically stated within PlayStation internally, Herman Hulst said that we're not doing PC anymore. But PlayStation have still not actually, and if I'm wrong, let me know. But as far as I'm aware right now, Sony have still not officially, on official PlayStation communication, said, hey guys, we are no longer moving forward. We believe that the console is what matters, and we want to make people believe that our box matters, and this is why we're going full. Like, that just hadn't happened. And I'm sure that part of that is that they just kind of want to do it without much fanfare. That way they kind of hope that eventually you just kind of go like, oh yeah, PlayStation did that for a bit, but then they just went back without saying it.
I think that would have been my question to you is why would they say it?
Yeah, because then you have to find a way to sell it to people, and then you have to deal with it. You're giving an open forum for people to blow back to you. That's official.
Even then, like, why? What benefit does Sony get from saying we're not releasing our games on PlayStation on some PC?
Yeah, I guess none. It's just like silence is the silently moving along and knowing that people who are in the know, like people who choose to keep up with gaming news, are going to hear about this.
It's also like what you're saying is correct. They're using Bloomberg. So to me, it's like Sony's not dumb. They know that the Bloomberg story is out there, right? So they know that games are no longer going exclusive. I don't think Herman Hulst, personally, I don't see why they would. But I don't think Herman Hulst is going to have like a Xbox business meeting type conversation where he's like, we believe that, our box is best. So we're not releasing these games ever on PlayStation. You can feel comfortable buying a PlayStation 5. But all they'll do is go, the Bloomberg thing is here. Oh, and by the way, in front of the Wolverine trailer, it says only on PlayStation. That's all they have to do. They're never going to confirm it black and white, because what if they decide to release Wolverine on PlayStation in 5 years or on PC in 5 years?
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah, I don't think fair enough.
That much. I doubt they do it, but yeah.
What do you think the chances are that we finally get to see what the fuck Media Molecule's been up to?
Honestly, I bet we should hope that they're there.
If we don't hear from Media Molecule this year, they're going to go the way of the unfortunately the way of the blueprint.
Can I ask you a question that I don't know that anyone's ever talked about it from this angle, probably because it's kind of mean. Am I crazy to think that like the studios that are still around must be cooking?
Man, I don't
Media
know.
Molecule's got to have something, because if Bluepoint's closed for not having anything, how do you justify keeping Media Molecule open without anything?
I think Media Molecule, I really do. I think that they are like a skeleton crew artsy thing that's cheap enough that whenever they put anything out, I think even though Dreams wasn't this breakout success, I think Dreams made money, or at least broke even.
Sure.
And I think that there's enough reason for them to go, they're dirt cheap. They have the chance to do things that are good PR wins, kind of like Nintendo sometimes puts out games that don't really do well. Metroid Prime 4 has not done well, but they already said they were going to do it. They know that Metroid Prime is like a fan favorite, like little cult title. The Metroid Prime series are. And the Metroid in general has almost always been kind of a more niche franchise for them. It pretty much never sells, much more than 1 million units. And I think what they rely on is the fact that it's a PR win when they give a new game, because they're not that expensive to make. And as long as you feel like you can more or less recoup your investment, even if recouping investment means a few people continue to buy into Nintendo for the fact that they get these types of games, then it's worth the squeeze, which is something I've continued to say. I'll talk about this in a second too on here. Sony needs to do a better job of I don't say milking because that has a negative intent. Sony needs to do a better job of finding people who are passionate about making games for some of their IP that can just be good PR wins that more or less are made to break as close to even as you can, but can remind you that this is a box with exclusives that you want to play. Like, for all I know that like Sly Cooper, Thieves in Time, I don't know if it made a profit at all. I don't even know if it broke even, but I think it's the exact type of game that you could get people to go, this is why I buy PlayStation. Because I think that's exactly what Metroid Prime 4 was for the people who cared about it. It was, this is why I buy Nintendo. Because eventually they give me this shit. They give me these kind of small games that they still put a loving craft to. And that's why I think Gravity Rush 2 was a big moment for them. It's still a huge game that people unfortunately didn't show up for, but the people who did show up for go, this is a good reminder in the moment of why I like PlayStation and why I buy their consoles, because I get to play everything on here, but I get to play these games that I'm only going to get on here, and they're the weird type of games that aren't meant to be for big audiences, but they make those different small games make different small sections of the fandom just feel good about being on that console. And to that end, what I kind of hope here, it's not a big prediction, but there have been rumblings about PlayStation considering about bringing some of their old franchises back. And God of War trilogy coming back is not the same thing, in my opinion. God of War is still an active, obvious, big.
No, the rumor was franchise. What? Infamous 1 and 2 remake or remaster 1 and 2?
That'd be dope. A new Infamous, even dope. I want to see one revival IP at this. I think that would be a really cool and useful move to them. And I think what kind of hurts me is I think Sean Layden realized exactly what I'm talking about. It is worth spending money on smaller projects that have good fanfare because it's good PR. Do you think that they really made crazy money over the remake of Medieval? No, but it was a good remake that clearly didn't cost them that much, and it was good PR for the people who love that. And it gives this sense of PlayStation understands their history without going too far into it. Like, I think Nintendo sometimes goes a little too hard into that, but I'd rather them go too hard into it than not do it at all, like Sony's been doing recently.
I guess I don't necessarily disagree with the argument, but I also feel like it's kind of... I feel like Sony's demonstrated that they're not willing to do that, though. Like, they're willing to do it to a degree, but like, it's not like we're getting Medieval 2 remake.
No, we're not. And I think a lot of that
like 5.
Yeah, I think a lot of that comes down to Sean left, and I think that Sean would have pushed more for it. And I also think that, weird as it is, I also think that Shu would have pushed more for it, because they had a different feel. They were businessmen who were of the games industry, not the other way around. And I think one of the biggest disappointments I've had from Herman is I haven't felt like he's actually, as weird as it is, he's felt like a Phil Spencer to me. Someone who comes from gaming, so you expect him to push more against what you expect gamers would want, but you seldom actually see that come to fruition.
You know what I think the reason that Herman Hulst is in his position?
Because they knew he'd be a yes man, I think is what it came down to.
No, I think...
And that sucks. I do think that's part of what it is.
Yeah. We're 2-3 hours in, I can say this. This might be the gayest thing anyone will ever say on this show. But I think Herman Hulst is only in his position because he knows enough about the games industry, but also listening to him talk, fantastic.
Yeah,
it sounds great to listen to.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not even talking about his knowledge. His voice and the way he talks, his accent, beautiful. Yeah. It works. Yeah. So when you talk, we've got Horizon, and we're going to show you the vast vistas. And I'm here with my friend Hideo Kojima. No, that was Billy Butcher. That was not fucking Herman Hulst. I'm really excited for the boys ending this morning. But you get what I'm saying. Like the way he reminds me of like who's the documentary guy? David
Attenborough.
Yeah, he reminds me of him. Where Herman Hulst sounds like a nature documentarian doing a video game conference.
Yeah,
and we need more of that. I was actually going to ask you for your state of play predictions. You think Herman Hulst is going to have a speech?
No.
One of the CEOs?
I think that this will be what they've always done, what they've been doing lately. I don't think we'll see anything other than, we might not even, for this one being the E3 like one, we might not even see Shawnee Benson, or I can't think of the other guy's name. Funnily enough, I met the guy in person.
Scott Rhodey you're talking about?
Sid Schumann. Is that it?
He's not. I don't think he's. I think so. Oh, I was thinking Stig.
Sid
guy.
Schumann. Oh, you're talking about Stig Asmussen from God of War.
That was. Yeah. His game got canceled today. That wasn't in the news, by the way.
Oh, he just can't get it off the ground. He was also working on that Star Wars game.
Nope. Just gonna say it. If we're gonna talk shit about Jade Raymond, maybe we got to start moving a little bit over there. I don't know.
No, I think we're getting to the point. I got to start throwing shit at. And here's the thing: I love God of War 3. It's probably my favorite God of War, and Stig was a big reason for that. But if the man can't make a good
Jedi games, right?
No,
am I crazy?
I don't think so. Okay. I think he might have actually done the first Fallen Order.
I think he was Fallen Order, and I've just been talking shit for no reason.
Now I gotta know. I do think it was him. Yep, directed by Stig Asmussen.
See,
but I don't think he did the follow up. So you know what, Stig? Sorry. I'll tell you this much: Fallen Order is no God of War 3, but it's a competent game, and I enjoyed it.
Watch your back, there, Mr. Guy. We may be being mean to you pretty soon.
I don't believe he did. He did direct Star Wars Jedi Survivor. So you know what?
Know what? I take back even my funny little voice thing. It's all. You're good. We're done. We're back. Great guy. Bring him back, Sony.
That's unfortunate though, because didn't he break out and make his own studio? So did his studio close too?
No, I guess he said that there's the studio will be fine. It's like giant squid or talking cum or something.
Skull,
I'll look it up. Okay, giant skull. Yeah,
yeah. But that's okay. Look, you know what? Sorry that we threw any shade on you, Stig. That was misplaced. We shouldn't have done that. I don't have a whole lot more in the predictions case because I'm gonna be real with you. I just want to be surprised. I don't even want to spend much time. I'm in a good spot with gaming right now. The beginning of this year, I was kind of in and out. I didn't know how I felt about it. And even though I've had a bunch of stuff going on, I've done a lot of gaming this year that I didn't anticipate that I'd get to do. And I'm like picking back up on it, having fun on this, having fun on PlayStation, playing those things. I'm in a spot right now where I just want to continue to be like, this is why I like PlayStation. This is why I like gaming. This is why I like this. And I feel like I'm in a good spot for that. And that's kind of why I'm hoping like 007's coming. I hope that that's fucking great, and I'm probably going to do everything I can to play it as soon as I can. Lego Batman looks fucking awesome, and it's right there too. So, you know, I want to play Pragmata, and I really am looking forward to that. But I think right now I'm going to ride the wave. If I get impressed by this and Kingdom Come 2 ends, and even if I'm as impressed with it as I am right now, I'm happy with that. I'm at a good spot with the game. If it doesn't get any better than it is right now, I have enjoyed playing it, and I will consider this to have been a great time. And then if I can go on to playing like Batman and just ride that wave, and then play 007, ride that wave, and then bounce back to Pragmata, and then maybe play Saros, I just want to continue to feel in that space. And I've done a good job of being there right now, and I'm really happy about that.
I think I want, like, you may not, this may be hard to understand, but I want to be excited about a game that I'm probably not going to play or be very good at. And like a good example is like Marvel Tokon, right? Like I'll probably play that game, but I'm never going to be good at it. But when it was announced, I was so like, this is so fucking cool, and I want something like that again. I want to be like, oh, that's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Even if I would play it, I just want something that would be like, holy shit, you know?
Like, even if it's not for me, I didn't expect to see something like this.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I'm trying to think like I don't know, a Spider-Man tactics game. That's actually very much for me. I don't know why I said that out loud. But like a Horizon survival game.
A Horizon city builder.
When it comes out, Brett already has 100 hours into. So it's just not for me at all. But if it looks cool as hell, I would be into it.
Somehow on release, Brett already has 100 hours.
Yeah. They just knew. They gave it to you.
That'd be so funny. I'm actually totally down for a survival Horizon game. As far as much as I was saying they were using the fuck the multiplayer game. Just give me that, and I think that's much better use of the IP.
Yeah.
But okay, hold on. If the multiplayer game does well, clearly it's a better use of the IP from a monetary standpoint. I think from a gameplay standpoint, the survival is a better fit for the world. And then the MMO is a better fit for what I thought the multiplayer game would be.
That MMO's got to come to PlayStation. I don't know why it's not doing it.
Blows my mind. Is that what we're going to see? They're going to be like, hey, guys, we are bringing it to PlayStation. Is that a state of play prediction? Let's go.
That would be such a it's so obvious that needs to happen. It would be disappointing to see that in anything other than a press release.
What do they call it? The
press release
PS blog. That should be a PS blog post.
Someone should email Colin at Sacred Symbols and just tell him it's happening. That's how it should be announced. Colin gets an email. He's like, "Oh yeah, I guess this is coming to PC or to console," and that's how it should be. There, it's that obvious.
All right, Chris, we got one final thing to round the show out. You ready for it?
Yeah, hit me.
One of our listeners, Mr. Pork Chops, said, with this weekend being Memorial Day weekend and grilling season being upon us, it's never not grilling season if you're man enough up here in the north. What's your go-to cut of steak? How do you season it? What level of doneness are you cooking it to? Do you add anything to it after you take it off the grill? Come on, guys. Make me want your meat all up in my mouth. Phrasing. You want those meaty man parts in your, you want to take those meaty man parts?
Give me
it's a real
meat.
Tobias Funke way of you to talk. So I agree with you. It's never not grilling season if you want it bad enough. I think that doesn't matter where you live. Even in the heat of the summer in the South, I will grill. Even when the grill is 130 degrees and outside's 150. You know what I mean? You're just, what grill's 100? When the grill's 500 degrees and outside's 130. If you want it bad enough, you gotta do it. Now, with that said, Chris, I think that there's a part of this question we got to answer first, real quick. When you grill, what is your type of grill? Are you a propane guy, charcoal guy? Are you a wood pellet grill guy? What's your go-to?
Depends on what I'm cooking. Realistically,
are you averse?
Yeah, whatever floats your boat. I think for most practical use, I would probably be buying like a flat top propane grill, because you can do anything in that. But like, I would love to have a smoker. Yeah, that would be sick. I know that's not a grill, but
it depends. The thing is, like, that's what I kind of like about pellets is that pellet grills just do both. Almost all of them. It can be a grill because you can crank it up to where it's high enough, or you can smoke it out and have it low and do a low and slow. That's what my grill is. It's big, but if I keep it shut and just let it keep going and pouncing, just roll it at 160, just keep going for low heat for long periods of time. And I've not done it a lot, but I told you I smoked burgers one time, and it was a lot of work for what it was. That shit was delicious. And I smoked it. The pellets I used for it were, interestingly enough, I had a friend who just gave me a whole bag. Basically, it had one scoop taken out of fruity blend. So it was fruit blend wood pellets. And they recommend it for like all sorts of other stuff like chicken and whatnot. And it did not recommend it for beef. But I was like, fuck that. I want to see what a fruit blend burger tastes like, and smoked at that. And so the burgers cooked for about 2 hours on the smoker, and they had perfect little pink smoke rings on them, and they were so good. I would have never thought, but you get that kind of fruity back end flavor coming into like the meat's savory flavor. And then I put a sharp cheddar on it to really contrast that. And that together blew my balls off. So good, dude.
Yeah.
So good.
It sounds delicious. I did something similar with I honestly, it wasn't really similar, but like I like using fruit in burgers. I think it's very, people don't expect it, and it's really good.
Yeah, you ever use like a jam or anything, like where you do like a compote spread or something on it?
I have. I don't like jelly or jam, so
fair enough. I'll tell you something that's interesting that I've only done once that really surprised me. I've done this part multiple times where I've used grilled cheeses as buns.
Okay.
So one grilled cheese on bottom and one grilled cheese as a top bun. Like it's the whole bun. An entire grilled cheese.
Do you put cheese on the burger too?
Yes.
Obviously. Okay.
I love cheese. It's one of my favorite things. Yeah, dude, like a nice provolone. Oh man, that's like that. And then you can get like one of the grilled cheeses can be American cheese, and the bottom one can be like a mix of other cheeses that have a good melting point. But the interesting part of this one in particular, then we'll get to the cut of steak because I know that's the question. But I hope, if nothing else, pork chops, we're getting you wanting to put our other meats in your mouth. Have you ever had apple butter?
Mm-hmm.
I love apple butter, and it's great on toast. If you cook the grilled cheese the way I like to cook them, where it's very toasted, You're not burning it, but you're getting a real nice crisp on the outside. I put like a smear of apple butter on the bottom side of the top bun with the grilled cheese stack. And it was so interesting because it's like apple butter already has a little bit of that. I don't want to call it cinnamony, but it's not a very strong fruit flavor, but it's real tasteful. And pulling that in with everything else, with like the salt and the pepper, kind of bringing it back up in that direction. It's one of the more interesting things I've had. And I love apple butter. Recently, I went to a German restaurant while I was in Indiana that had, I'd have to look up the name, but they were like twice baked potatoes that were recoated in flour and pressed down almost like pancake, for lack of a better way of saying it. It was like a potato pancake. And when it came out, I didn't notice on the menu that it said it came with apple butter, but I just ordered those because I didn't know what else to do. And it was our first night there and I wasn't super hungry. It was an appetizer and I was dipping in the apple butter. That shit was fire. So good. One of the best things I've eaten in a long time. And I go back there in July and I cannot wait to get those again because they were fucking banging. But Chris, scooching on over, first question.
Scooch it, baby.
Are you a steak guy?
I mean, can you not be a steak guy?
That feels like, I'm glad you said that because it feels like I guess if you're vegetarian, but even then, I think vegetarians, they love steak. They just don't like how you have to go about getting it. So they just, so they choose to abstain.
Pretend.
Yeah, dude. Steak is like, I never get tired of steak. I'll be honest with you, I don't get tired of beef. I can eat a burger every day. And I could eat steak every day. Like, dude, it's like the least healthy meat for you, but red meat, specifically beef, fucking slaps. It is so good.
Yeah, so I'm of two minds here because before a lot of stuff happened, like I'm not even trolling you when I say this. I would have a Longhorn steak like almost every night.
Oh, yeah, dude, that's right there.
And it would be like, if it wasn't steak, it was like the Parmesan crusted chicken and all this kind of shit. Shit bangs. But now, like I think we've talked about it on the show, but you know better than anyone else. Like I get gout like once a year. So
which
almost
is primarily driven by red meat, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, which is why I've almost entirely stopped eating red meat. Which is really fun because I work in a burger restaurant.
No. So you're like surrounded by temptation all day.
Yeah. I tend to have a piece of salmon, some shrimp, and mashed potatoes, and that's usually my lunch almost every day.
You know what? That's a nice meal, though.
It's a great meal. It's a great meal. It's not as good as a fucking burger with cheese and bacon on it, though, dude.
Agreed.
Yeah, the nice also, salty French fries with the perfect crispity crunch.
While we're on the topic of fish, I just want to throw out there, people shit on tilapia all the time. I fucking like tilapia. I'm not saying it's salmon, but I like tilapia. It's good. It's cheaper. I don't like. Sometimes
I don't hate it, but I don't.
It depends on how it's cooked. But like, if it's cooked well, tilapia, it's good. It bangs. It's good. I like it.
I like cod. Cod's really good.
Cod's good shit. Yeah.
I also shouldn't be having fish. So,
is there something in fish that puts towards gout?
Yeah, it's all the acidic foods and stuff. So, beer, fish, and red meat. But I decided that if I cut out red meat and I don't drink beer that much, I'm gonna eat some fucking fish. Something's got to give. It's gonna be the fish.
You gotta have a light at the end of the tunnel. So, what's your go-to cut of steak, man?
Filet.
So, really, this goes back to my thing about your actions speak louder than your words. There's multiple reasons for this. Of course, price being one of them. Of course, how much meat you want and how big the cuts are. I think filet is actually my favorite cut of meat, but because it's small and expensive, I tend to actually go towards ribeye because I like bone-in ribeye. A bone-in ribeye is a good portion of meat, and the bone adds a lot of flavor. And I like, dude, fat adds so much flavor to steak. Like, I'm gonna tell you, my least favorite cut of steak is sirloin. I don't like sirloin. I'll eat it. It's not bad. I'm like, oh, this is steak. This is good. Sirloin is like my last ditch effort that I'll go towards. I'll get filet is kind of like my go-to. Bacon wrap filet, bro. Let's go.
Yeah. So for me, I think the amount of food thing is actually fake, but that's because I will not eat fat. I think it's fucking disgusting.
Look, I'll give you that. If you don't like fat, ribeye is a really bad option because you're cutting around like crazy.
So for me, that cut of steak is less food than a filet or a sirloin.
Well, and I guess there's also something worth saying that when we're talking about steaks, is like, what type of steak are you even talking about? Because I mean, there's a lot. Because like tomahawk is really fucking good, but very few places have it easily available, and it's even for you to cook yourself, right? Like it's something that you have to really seek out. But I quite like it. But you have things like tri-tip, which is not bad, and I like tri-tip, but I don't ever think of that in the same way. I think of those and like flank steaks and things like that. Those are the type of things that I like use when I'm wanting to cut up and put steak in something. If I'm eating steak as my primary meal, we're talking sirloin, filet, T-bone, ribeye, New York strip, porterhouse, all that stuff. That's the kind of stuff that you're usually working around. And of course, some of those are just additional pieces depending on what you get, like a porterhouse and whatnot. But yeah, that's kind of my go-to. Is ribeye is probably the steak I get the most often, but the steak I dream about is usually a filet. Like that's like the go-to fucking fire steak,
Yeah,
but a good bone-in ribeye is like a good price to taste ratio. But yeah, if you don't like fat, you don't like fat. I remember being so proud when my daughter didn't like steak at first because my wife would normally buy sirloin, and I was like, oh, maybe she doesn't like steak. But then one night we went to Longhorn. And I got the outlaw ribeye, like I always do, because it's fucking banging. And she decided she wanted to take a bite. And I gave her a bite that had a little bit of fat on it. I didn't actually realize it when I first cut it. But I was like, well, I've already cut it. It's a small bite. I'm just going to give it to her. And her eyes lit up. She was like 4. And she was like, and I was like, yeah. She's like, can I have more? And I said, yes. Yes, you can.
Yes, my child.
Please do. So the remainder part of that question came in. So what is your level of doneness when you're cooking? So Chris, are you one of the people that we have to politely but firmly ask to leave? Tell me you don't like a well done steak. Look me in my eyes and tell me that you don't ruin the meat by overcooking it.
I do not.
Yes.
I can eat a well done steak and it will not make me want to kill myself. But
I will meet you if it's a place that knows how to cook it well done while keeping the juice, like the juiciness of the steak there without drying it out.
Yes, I always assume proper cooking technique when
then I can eat it begrudgingly. Like I'll eat it and be like, fine, this is okay. And actually, if I go out to eat, which is like, I'm glad he brought up specifically, grilling yourself. Because if I go out to eat, I kind of always have the expectation that they're probably going to cook it at least one level above what I requested. My go-to request for the most part, if I'm getting filet or sirloin, I'm usually going medium rare. That's kind of my ideal spot. If I'm going ribeye, I've drifted towards really liking a ribeye more at a medium. And some of that is that the fat naturally just holds more juices anyway. And even when you cook it right, a well done steak is still usually less juicy than like a medium or medium well, by nature of what it is. So one of the things I like about Longhorn here in town is it's the only place. There's one other place that just recently closed down that was like a locally owned place that always cooked my steak right, and they had a fantastic ribeye. Longhorn's the only chain place we have in town that consistently cooks the steak correct. I've had them go just like kind of in between a medium rare and a medium, or if I order a ribeye and get a medium, I've had them be like kind of between a medium and a medium well, which I don't love, but I'm willing to handle. But they consistently do a good job, and so I don't mind letting them cook it. But yeah, when I'm cooking here at the house, medium rare is pretty much what I cook on almost anything.
Yeah, I can eat. I think medium is my ideal, but like I can go all the way up to like rare. It doesn't bother me either way. It used to.
Have you ever had what they call blue rare?
No, I'm not fucking gross.
My mother-in-law stepmother-in-law. I don't know. What do you call that? Is that what it is? My wife's stepmom.
Stimmel.
Stimmel. She eats hers that way. And I remember the first time that we were grilling out with them and she asked that. And I was like, okay, I don't know. I was like, I'm going to have to. And so her dad came over and he was like, this is what you do. And I was like, holy shit.
Yeah, because you basically just sear it on both sides.
Yeah, like
you're just eating. It's gross.
For lack of, it might be a bit of exaggeration, but I swear to you, it was like 30 seconds per side, and it was just like,
yeah.
I was like, this is weird.
If the meat is still cold, it's not cooked. You shouldn't eat it.
I don't know if I'd say you shouldn't eat it. I don't know if the temperature of the meat really matters on whether you should eat it, but I will say I like the meat to be warm, which is something about grilling wise. That's another thing I like about the. Which is true of propane as well. I'll give it that. I've never gotten big on cooking with charcoal because I have such a hard time keeping heat consistent with charcoal.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I'm not saying that's a problem with charcoal. It's probably a way I never got to terms with charcoal in a way where I was able to control the heat. I find it very difficult to cook steaks the way that I intend to cook them on charcoal. Burgers the same. So it's something I just kind of have drifted away from. I've tried a few times and I never end up.
Charcoal's fucking overrated.
I mean, I've had charcoal stuff that I've liked for people who just, you can tell, really know what they're doing with it. But that's far more rare in my experience. Most of the time that I've had people charcoal cook stuff, it tastes burnt.
Yeah, that's why I don't like charcoal.
Yeah. So
I don't know. It's funny because I used to be closer to a well done guy than anything else. Like I was like a medium well person,
Really, yeah.
But then after I started working at my job now, when I was just a line cook, I tended to close a lot. So what I would do is throw a burger on the grill, decide I wanted to clean the grill, so I would pull it off after like 4 minutes. And I would just eat it like that. So I got to a point where like I was totally fine.
You're speaking my language. I get my burgers cooked medium too. That's bro. Yeah, like I'll tell you, it doesn't mean it'll be a bad burger, but anytime I walk into a burger joint for the first time and I order a burger and they go, "How would you like it cooked?" I'm like, "Fuck yeah, this is gonna be a banging ass burger," and every time it is.
It's pink or no pink.
That's that's my thing. I love that. My wife.
You just got to be careful with frozen patties. See, that's the misconception. You shouldn't get pink with frozen patties. You can get it with fresh ground beef.
What I tell her is that if you go to a place and they let you choose how to cook it, that means that even if it's ground beef, they know what it is and it's fine.
Exactly.
I said whenever they don't, whenever you just say you want a burger and they don't ask you, don't push on it. Don't tell them because I've had a place try to do it. They're like, "Well, I don't know, but we can." And I was like, "No. If your cooks don't usually operate under that, do not by any means.
If you don't even know, give me the chicken." Like,
yeah. That's not a good spot to be in. So there's that. But even when I cook burgers myself, I tend to cook them a little bit under because that's how I prefer them. And even whenever it's like, I'll get fresh patties. I never get frozen like you talk about. I get fresh patties from like our local places and cook them and just cook them medium still. And I've never had an issue.
Just buy ground if it's easy. I want to get a meat grinder for my house. It's so much. It's so easy. Just buy a fucking chuck roll, dude.
Yeah. Speaking of, he said, like, what do you put on it, right? Like, what do you add to it after taking off the grill? I'm actually a pretty bare bones person. I like to season it ahead of time and kind of get that season kind of char from the season on the burger while you're cooking it. Outside of that, I really don't mind a lot. Every now and then, like a nice garlic herb butter would be really good on it.
We're talking about steak or burger?
Steak. One of my favorite things to do steak-wise, and one of the reasons I really like Longhorn whenever I am relinquishing my cooking, Longhorn brings it out on the plate, and it's just got like the juice that's just been emanating from the steak just in the plate. And as you cut it, you can just kind of move it around in that, and it's like a steak sauce from the steak. Which brings us to an important question.
You to a Portuguese restaurant, have a steak there.
Let's do it. Are you a steak sauce or no steak sauce person?
If you need steak sauce, you didn't cook it right.
Here's the thing. I agree with you because of a specific word you said, need. Almost every time I go to anywhere with steak, I get A1, specifically A1, because I love that fucking orange peel flavor. But here's the thing. When I say I use A1, my favorite place to do this is at Longhorn. Again, take the bottle and just pour a couple of drops of that into the natural steak's juice and kind of let it mix up a little bit. And then as you move along, you're tasting mostly the steak, but you pick up those little notes of the stuff from the A1. I'm not talking putting steak sauce on where people like drench the steak in sauce, like you can visibly see the sauce on the steak. I don't do that. That's not my thing. But I like A1's orange peel. Ever since I think the first time I did it was like I was 18, and I was like, let me try this A1. And I was like, this shit's good. But every now and then I'll just be fucking up a steak and be like, I don't need anything. I'm good. This is a good fucking steak. Because like you said, if it's cooked right, you don't need any of that.
You need salt, pepper, and butter. Maybe some rosemary, and that's all you need for a steak.
Yeah, rosemary, a little bit of thyme here and there is not bad on it. I like that.
I've had some
with
with
sage on there.
I've liked putting. You don't put a lot. You do like half a leaf. You do your butter. You do your other seasonings, and you throw half a leaf of mint in there.
Ooh, that's okay.
It's delicious. Try it. I'm telling you.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good idea. I'm not usually a mint person when I think of things that are normally advertised with mint. I'm not a big mint chocolate person. I don't really like mint candies or anything like that. That's just not my thing. Like I'll fuck up a soft peppermint.
Yeah, I don't really like mint
I'm not
either,
a big mint person.
but it gives you this like little,
Yeah,
you know what I mean when I say that, like the little
cold spicy
at the end. Yeah, exactly. It's fucking awesome.
I don't know what else you'd call that. I mean, that's what I told my wife. I was like, mint is just like spicy in the opposite direction. Like it's the same. Like it's the same, but it's just like the different end of the temperature sensation. Like it's spicy because it feels cold.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Like mint's a weird thing. But
it's
yeah,
good,
I don't really like mint ice cream. That's not my thing either. But like, yeah, I could see that. I could see that working out.
Give it a shot. I want to get a message of you with just a little bit of mint, just right in there. It's not a lot. You shouldn't even like really realize it's there, and then you're like, oh.
It should be one of those things where like it sneaks up on you, like you're eating it, and you're just kind of like, oh,
exactly.
There's that little.
You want to
sensation.
be like, sometimes I'll make cocktails, and the girls will be like, I don't taste that, and then they'll be like, oh, I taste it on the back end, and like that's exactly what I want. You want to taste it on the back end.
I think that's like notes like that is what you want. It shouldn't be overwhelming. It should be the thing that you kind of go, oh, this is just oh, look at that. There's that little note.
I felt
There's
it in my
thing.
nostril a little bit. Okay.
Yeah. Well,
okay,
girl, that's my
off.
thing. That's my thing about salsa. I know this is a bit of a detour, but that's my thing about salsa. Whenever people make hot salsa and their only focus is on making it the hottest thing as soon as it touches your tongue, I'm like, that fucking sucks. There is nothing good to be had there. Some of the best salsas I've ever had were the hottest, but it was a slow build heat, and it was okay because it was so good that you didn't give a shit. Like you're just like, this is the best tasting salsa I've ever had, and it also happens to be burning my fucking tongue. But that's different than like one dude at work made some that was ghost pepper salsa. Is the worst shit I've ever had. As soon as it touched my tongue, I was like, oh, this is fucking grotesque.
Dude, the best.
But then
the best salsa.
A couple months later, another dude fucking came through and made it through, and he said it's ghost pepper salsa, and I rolled my eyes at first because I was like, are you like that fucking last guy? I took a bite. That shit was heaven. Now, 30 seconds later, I was like, there it fucking is. But I was like, dude, this is fucking fire. This is good shit.
Yeah. The best I made it wasn't even traditional salsa. I'm not a huge salsa guy, but we were doing like this outdoor thing in the summer. So I made this like fruit salsa. It was fucking sick, dude. It was mango, pineapple, strawberry, and then I still did cilantro and parsley, salt and pepper. It was fucking sick.
Yeah,
all
the things that pull it back away from that kind of fruity, sweet side.
Yeah, it was great. I don't know. I
haven't had a lot of fruit salsa. You know, that's something I've always been curious about, but I've never made it myself. I don't know if I'm that confident, and I've never seen a place around here that's really had it. We have some places around here that do like fresh garden salsa, they kind of call it, where like it's less vinegary, it's less worried about that, and it's kind of more tomatoey. Yeah. I don't really love that. It's not bad, but it's just not my bang.
Tomatoes just an overrated food item,
bro. You're telling me.
Like, it's not good for anything except making things taller.
I have one argument. sauce, and in a way you could argue that this is why it's true for chili as well. I think tomatoes and chili fucking bang, but that's because it's in like an additive thing. But like, dude, a tomato on a burger just makes it taller and wet. I fucking hate tomatoes on burgers.
And it doesn't taste like anything.
Again, you just bite into it and it's like, oh, my burger is leaking.
Yeah, because all
and not
tomato,
in like the way you like, not like it's greasy. It's
the
just,
thing with
it's like, oh,
the thing
water.
with it in the thing with it in chili is you just get these big bites of flavored water.
Yeah,
it's like where, you eat a fruit
depends
gusher.
on how you do it. I think when you dice it up enough that you get the richness that it kind of adds to the chili, but you never notice it in a bite, that's when you have an ideal like tomato in your chili. And you can make chili without it, and you'll notice the lack of it, not from like a textural standpoint, but just like there's something missing flavor-wise. And then you pull that back in, you're like, there it is. But I hate when people do exactly what you're talking about, huge chunks of tomato, and you get a spoonful, and it's like a little granule of meat, one bean, and a whole fucking like quarter of a tomato. You're like, no. And even then, it's better than a normal tomato because it's been stewing in chili. Because it's like, it's kind of like, look, I like carrots, but like baby carrots that have been stewing in like a roast beef or like a pot roast all day, those fucking bang. But that's because it's just been benefiting from soaking up all this extra flavor,
It's like an underrated vegetable that I don't even know what it's actually called. But do you know those like mini they look like mini corn cobs? And they're usually in like stir fries.
Yeah.
I don't know what they are, but they fucking rule. It's benefiting from the flavors, like you said, but it's an awesome little in-flight, in-meal snack.
Is it baby corn?
Maybe. It could just be that simple.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. And that shit that shit's really good.
Yeah, it's baby corn. So I love those.
Yeah. It's speaking of which, I guess we'll round that out with this. Where do you land on corn? Because we're talking about grilling. I love taking a nice corn cob, wrapping it, putting all the fucking like paprika and shit on it, butter, wrapping it up in foil, throwing on the grill as you cook. Street corn fucking bangs. That's one of my favorite foods. And my wife looks at me crazy every time I eat it because it's a fucking mess. And she's like, I just don't like corn. And I kind of get it. Like, if you don't do anything to corn, it's a pretty unambitious food. But dude, like a nice corn that's got like just enough of a roast on the outside that you kind of get that pop whenever you go to bite into it. You have a little textural crunch. You have a little paprika, butter, salt, pepper. That shit, a little bit of that cheese, boy. Oh, that shit's so good. Like that's one of my favorite. That's one of my favorite things to cook extra whenever we're doing grilling. Also, if we're talking about companion foods while grilling, almost anytime that we grill, we get a couple of pieces of boudin and throw it on there. And I'm not normally a fan of, like, my wife will microwave boudin. I don't even know if you know what boudin is. I'm assuming it's something that you would be familiar with, but maybe not. It's like rice and meat and shit, like put into like a sausage shape in a casing with some seasoning in it. But we throw a couple of those on the grill because when you cook them on the grill and it gets like that night, like it actually firms up the skin on the outside, and as you go to eat it, it like kind of has a pop to it. Oh, that shit is good. And if you haven't had boudin, Chris, next time you come down, we'll grill and we'll make some boudin.
Hell yeah. I haven't.
You get 3 weeks vacation now,
I was about to say, actually, it's funny. I was thinking that same thing. Maybe I will come down there finally. I'm not a huge. I'll eat corn if it's presented, but you'll probably never catch me like going for corn. I'm not going to think to buy it at the store.
Fair enough.
But I do like a good street corn.
Yeah, street corn is where it's at. You ever had the where it's not on the cob? What is it, elote? Whenever it's like it's already off the cob, but then they mix all that shit in it. And I've never had that.
Mm-hmm. It's good.
Yeah. It looks good, but as weird as it is, I kind of like the act of eating corn off the cob, even though it's a fucking mess.
I do too. It's not. The cost benefit analysis on it is not worth it,
dude. It's kind of like it's the way I feel about burgers. Like, I love an egg on a burger, and ideally, I actually like an over easy egg on a burger where like it just runs. The yolk is like catching into everything and soaking into the bread and the burger. And I also have a tendency I like to put fries on my burger or some kind of potato on my burger while I'm eating it too. So it just kind of all soaks into that. But it's such a fucking mess to do that I hardly ever commit to it. If I get an egg on my burger, which I try to do anytime I can, I will usually end up having them cook it over hard because it's just like, it's not worth the mess that you have to clean up when you get done. It's like, it's all over your face, it's all over your hands. And you're just like, here I am looking like Ricky Bobby, who don't know what to do with my hands. It's just what it is, you know? But all right, Chris, that's it, man. So we talk about food on this podcast a lot, but you know, I'm all for it. I love food.
My career is food,
bro.
Sadly,
Like if I'm addicted to anything, I'm gonna be real with this. If I'm addicted to anything, it's food. Like I don't have interest for alcohol or drugs, but throw some burgers in front of my face, and I have a hard time looking away. I'm gonna eat one burger. If you give me 2 burgers in front of my face, I'm probably gonna try to eat both of them, whether I should or shouldn't. That's my weakness.
Delicious, brother.
It's a delicious weakness to have. Chris, appreciate you for joining me as always, man. Pork chops, appreciate the question. Hope we made you want to put our meat all up in your mouth, you know? And I hope that you can look forward to the man inside you that comes alongside
Bring
that.
it on,
So,
baby boy.
As a quick reminder, if you are liking the podcast, if you're listening on YouTube, consider subscribing. If you're listening on podcast services, also consider subscribing and following us so you can keep up with when the episodes hit. We do an episode every 2 weeks. And of course, if you want to support us with more than just your time, which we are always so thankful for, head over to patreon.com/Narsac and consider giving as little as $1 per month to support the show, just like plenty of our patrons have. One of the things we do is shout out all of our patrons at the end of every episode as a way to thank them for the extra that they offer to the show so that we can keep making the show without having to dig into our own pockets. Without further ado, we'd like to thank The Boorish Boar, Grime Kid 1989, FR Damian Quigley, Ryan Goldner, Spencer, Brandon Edwards, Alex, Barry Rogers, Stingray X, Matt Tubbs, Sean Easton, Bailey Robertson, TT Dog 666, Kevin Bacon Bits, Danny Villalobos, Jehudi MD, No Fate, Josh Ayers, Derek Porter, and Sean Santaroo. Thanks to each and every one of you. We'll see you next time.
Peace.